Hello, everybody. If it's Wednesday, it's Warhammer, and that must mean it's time for another episode of Warhammer Weekly. Joining me, as always, my co-host Tom. What's up, buddy?
Hello, friends. We're live. I just got the announcement.
Nice.
You
Yay!
fixed it.
I fixed it.
Congratulations, Vince.
Oh
You
my
figured out
god.
YouTube.
Well, isn't that wonderful? Good news all around. So, yes, we've had a heck of a time getting this to start. So I apologize, everyone, but hey, this is life now. At any rate, also joining us this week, back again, one of our most ranking and senior members and affiliates and friends of the channel.
Good to be here,
Mr.
gentlemen.
Tyler Emerson, how you doing, buddy?
Awesome. Let's do this.
All right. We're talking Sylvaneth tonight, but sorry, we tried to start this, just so everybody's aware. We've been streaming and trying to stream for like the last...
We've
10.
done 2 other show starts.
Correct. And it just wouldn't go to my channel, and I couldn't figure out why. So this is the world we live in now, people. I don't know what to tell you.
I was pulling on my best Nico to stare into the existential abyss. Vince, are you there?
It's so fantastic.
Yeah, it's good stuff. At any rate, we're here now. Everything's
We are.
working. Now I know there's another thing I need to check before we go live, because apparently it can just be wrong. I didn't know that. But that's, hey, look, we all learn things here. This is a learning process. Let's get a sound check. Is everybody able to hear me okay tonight? Am I too loud? I'll talk in a normal voice. I was like kind of yelling earlier. Am I all right versus Tom? Is everyone good? Okay. Tom turned down his input sound, which I suspect is what the problem was last week. Tom was too loud, and that was ruining everything.
I mean, it wouldn't be the first time.
So that's that. I still need to figure out how to get a link going earlier. That I don't know, without doing one of those like where you do a live stream and you start and it's just like a dun 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 dun. Like you set up one of those little screens. It's like stream is starting soon. But then whenever we live played this, there'd be like 10 minutes of stream is starting soon. Right.
Right.
And nobody wants that.
And nobody wants that. So I don't know, folks. I'll figure it out. I'll keep playing around. Anyway, news. Let's begin.
Okay. Sorry. Apparently, I've gained weight. Yeah, being at Vince's house all weekend, eating his wife's food. That's what happened.
I'll give it to you.
It's Gaffy's fault. So news. Rumor engine.
Yeah. It's a boot. It's a stupid boot. It's a
Christmas-
stupid
It's an elf
elvish-looking boot.
Christmas elves. Moving on.
It's an elf boot.
It's a 40K
Christmas
thing.
elves. Exactly. Tyler, you stole that. That was my pitch. Christmas elves. Now you've called it because you heard me before.
Benefits.
It is a. Here's the call.
Every list I talk about, you're gonna already know. So we'll get even later.
I mean,
obviously.
probably not. I don't care about Sylvaneth.
Right.
No. But no.
Two ballots for you.
There you go. That's probably true. My call is Christmas. I think it's a limited edition Christmas model, and we're seeing a little snapshot of a piece of it. That's my call.
Nice.
So this year it's a Christmas elf. It's a Christmas miracle.
In July.
Sure. Yeah. There you go. All right. Good enough. I'm accepting of that. Let's call that call made. Moving on. Next thing in news. I want to get right into the Sylvaneth because we're already late.
Warcry. Warcry's
comes
coming
out this weekend. Yeah.
I spent some time at my GW store today just looking over the models, and they're beautiful. The detail on them is exquisite. And one of the other things that really struck me about the models is I thought they were just like Azurite ruins with some additional like sculpt changes on them, and they're not. So like if you were just assuming they were just Azurite ruins, they look more dungeony and less like broken down towny. So a little bit different.
Yeah, they look good. We've got a demo up in our store. It looks fantastic.
Nice.
One of the things we asked about when in our fake stream we did a few minutes ago before realizing it wasn't going to be live was what do you think overall? Are you excited for Warcry, Tyler?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, we got a Path to Glory campaign starting up tomorrow, which will lead into getting games in with Warcry. So yeah, really excited. I'm going to do Stormcast course on the Stormcast train.
Nice.
Usual combined arms Stormcast 3-2 pushing for 4-1. None of this insane, over the top 12 hurricanes or 9 long strikes nonsense that's going on everywhere, which is very powerful.
Sure.
I'm doing 3 long strikes, being very reasonable about it.
The long strike does crit for like 10 damage in the in Warcry. Just saying,
Oh, nice.
it's pretty
It
awesome.
does. 10.
Very cool.
10.
10,
That's
man,
crazy.
10. 10 years.
Uh,
All right. Yeah, so it's good. I'm excited. I'm actually gonna like put together a Gits warband for Warcry. Like I already ordered the cards. I have a bunch of like not a bunch. I have a small collection of older Gits sitting around. Like not enough to ever build an army out of, and I'm not interested to build a whole army. That sounds horrible and terrible and boring. But I like their sculpts. It's fun to paint little goblins, right? And so like I have some Squiggies and some Squiggy Riders and some little Gobbos. So I thought, hey, neat, cool. I'll if I can do it with like 8 or 10 models, won't that be a fun little project? So that'll be one of my fun
It would be
projects.
it'd be an easy thing to grab Garbag's Gits as well. Like if you didn't want to do the whole like mass, you could probably split Garbag's Gits into a bunch of stuff from the Goblin Warband. I thought about doing that.
Nice. Very cool.
Yeah, which I might do because I think those are like really excellent sculpts. Like those
I agree.
the Gits out of there are really nice. You get a little, you get a little bit of everything. So yeah, still cool. Okay, right on. Yeah, so I'm excited. Excited most of all for Iron Jaws because they look awesome. Super stoked. I'm always stoked for Iron Jaws.
They're going to be good. The other thing that I would point out is that the board's really small. Like, you think you know it like 22 by 30 is until like you actually like set a model onto a 22 by 30 and you're like, okay, 3-inch movement, not so bad.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Well, especially because there are missions where you start out so close to each other, but whatever.
Right.
Anyway,
Right.
All right. Other big news. We're gonna get some gifts this week. We didn't know it. This is obviously GenCon week. I leave for GenCon very early tomorrow morning. I'm not going today because I wanted to do this show. And so
Thanks.
yeah, I'm here for you. And apparently I can't do this from the road anymore, so this is just what it is now. This is just life now. We'll have to figure out how we do road shows. I don't know what the answer to that is yet.
We have to do it from Vince's phone. Doesn't that sound spectacular?
I can't.
Wait,
use
you
my
can't
phone.
even do that.
I can't invite you from my phone. Yeah. So.
Wow. Wait, does that mean that I don't have to do shows anymore when
No,
you're traveling?
Tom, no, because I'm gonna figure out a solution. Sorry. At any rate, we're gonna have a reveal tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. or no, sorry, 10 a.m. Eastern, 9 a.m. Central, 3 p.m. British. Yes, that's right. And then another one on Saturday at 9 p.m. British time, 4 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Central. I'm thinking in Central just because that's where GenCon is, obviously.
Is that second one part of an event at Warmer World that's going on? I didn't know anything was going on.
I have no idea. Like the first one is tagged with GenCon, but they're not like the community team is there. Like some people are there, but they don't do anything at GenCon.
Right. They don't have seminars there. So I suspect that it's going to be some videos. Some videos are going to pop up on the website. Probably like part 2 of Tithe. Probably something more on Shadespire. And maybe something of Sisters-ish, 40K-ish. That's my guess.
Sure. I would also just love to just show the Ogre book, please, or something like that. Like, we know it's there. You just told
the
us
Ogre
it's there.
book and box.
Yeah, just put that out. Just stop messing us about. Get them ogres out. Yeah. So we'll see what those are. Who knows? I'll be in the car tomorrow morning when that reveal happens. So I'll be driving down the road and checking my phone, very responsibly.
Super responsible. He'll make somebody. No, he won't. Yeah, he'll. I don't know.
It's fine. Other people in the car, I'll hand them my phone and be like, refresh this page. There you go. All right. Any other news we had?
I don't know. I closed my page.
We had some event news. We had the Midwest Reliant happened and was won shockingly by Reliant.
Year 3 in a row.
Reliant. It's going to become the Reliant Invitational.
Yeah, it's the Reliant Invitational. And something that I'm going to clearly have to clear my schedule for. 3 years in a row. That's like Sean Troy levels. So
everybody's coming gunning for him now. Yeah.
Yep.
He took it with Slanesh, and then Jake, of course, another Detroit member,
Mhm.
took second place with daughters, right?
Mhm.
The big news of the weekend, though, Iron Jaws taking
Third
third.
place, baby. Yeah, that's right. You can't stop them. They're for real now. This is happening. Yes.
Yep, almost a trend line at this point. We've had many events where they've been placing pretty high.
Absolutely. And as Sean pointed out in the comments, Detroit top three. As Detroit continues to prove its dominance in the scene, I agree completely. So
Mhm.
other clubs should probably step up your game. I don't know what to tell you.
Kudos, Detroit. You continue to represent.
Yes,
Yeah.
I also would like to shout out Crazy Horse and agree with him. That is to say, it is hilarious of you, ha ha ha, Tom going to an event. Yeah, that would be a great day, Anthony. But I don't know. He's too busy backing out of events to actually go to any of them. Like he
I mean,
signs up for a
he's not
lot,
wrong.
goes to less.
For those of you that don't know, I'm not going to be able to make NashCon. Much
No,
to I wish that I could. It's just it's not in the cards this year. So
not in the
I'm
cards. Can you see these?
no, I just
Can you see these pretty cards?
Mm-hmm.
I know.
We just got these ordered. I just got these ordered.
Don't tell me that.
Look at that, Tom.
They're beautiful, and
are
I
good.
know, I warned everyone this is dissertation crunch year, and so it means that I have to bow out of some events.
Yeah.
Even more than I had been bowing out of. Sorry, folks.
Good luck, man. I'm excited for you to finish it up.
Me
Indeed.
too.
We'll
Then I get
all
to
be
be-
excited.
Yeah.
Then I get to be Dr. Tom.
No,
Oh.
not going to happen. You
Nope.
can forget about that. That's reserved for real doctors. Sorry.
You mean doctors that help people?
Well, Dr. Tom was a psychologist on Being Erica, which is a great show from Canada, so I would accept that. But you're no Dr. Tom, my friend. No, you can be Professor Tom if you want. That's more in line with your brand, anyways. So there you go.
Hey, shouts to Alex Gonzalez. Alex, I think, was rocking 3 sharks over the weekend.
He was.
And he finished 11th.
Yep.
That's brilliant.
Hashtag
Kudos,
Shark
Alex.
Meta.
Yep. Shark Meta, it's coming. And yeah, and the real winners, of course, were Brendan and Haywo, both going 3-2 with the unplayable BCR. Good job, boys.
That's bringing up that win rate,
Yep.
upping it to 60%.
That's nothing to shrug at.
According to Brendan, everybody, he's been talking smack in private chats about how everybody else just doesn't know how to play the army. He's never gone to a tournament and not gone 3-2 with BCR. He almost had to walk home over the weekend, though. Yeah, he had to pull out that last game. He probably would have walked home, knowing him. Anyway.
I love it. All right. I think that is all of our news. So let's get into some pick of the week, shall we? So, Tyler, what would you like to share with everybody?
Okay, coming on the show, how many times now? 10, 12 times. I'm going to cheat. Hope I've earned that right.
Sure.
First screen. Okay, we'll try to, let's see.
I'll lock it on you, Tyler. It's fine.
Start screen share. You are screen sharing. Boom. First thing. This is a photo of one of our local players, his beautiful Stormcast army. So I had to borrow the army. Didn't have mine that came by way of Rob Moore of Warhammer. Thank you, Rob. He gave me my starter Stormcast army. It's full of terrifying units like Castigators and Liberators and Vanguard Hunters. I'm going to terrorize the mid-tables in NashCon. So this is a photo of a bat rep. I've started doing some bat reps. So the first one's going to go on Doom and Darkness as part of his Shootcast bat reps he's coming out with, which he mentioned in his last Doomcast yesterday. We're trying out 6 long strikes and 6 kitties in this game. So did that. Look forward to that coming out probably this week, next week. Another photo, trying to figure out how to use these birds. Yep, those birds are amazing. They've earned their reputation. And so that's that. And then thank you to In Hannum, helping me with the Stormcast army. So In, put these together for me. Vanguard Judicators. Aren't they lovely?
Nice. Yeah, they're beautiful.
Very nice.
Yeah. So In had created these a while back. Those are his. And I was just blown away by how cool they look. So thank you, In. That's that. A few photos. Wanted to pimp these. Some Sylvaneth Arch Revenants. This was one of the winners of Ever Chosen just recently. Another one, very pretty. I like the little blade, how that's kind of a little different pose there. Pretty sweet. That one's quite badass.
I'm
And
not
the
sure
real
about
winner,
where that flight stick is going.
Yeah.
yeah, the real winner, Andy Wardle. Arguably, what would you say, Vince, one of the best painters around. He's pretty incredible.
Yes, without a doubt, Andy Wardle is one of the best painters in the world. Yes, he's great.
Yeah. So this was his amazing piece, inspired by that illustration in the new Sylvaneth book, the Arch Revenant, one of the new illustrations. Just absolutely gorgeous. So anyway, wanted to share those. We've got Sound the War Plums. So good friend Chad Graham, part of the Colorado scene. Chad has started up a Bat Rep channel for competitive AOS.
Nice.
So check that out. Sound the War Plums. We'll include a link. This was a quote he sent to me today. 60 hours, 22 pages, 11,126 words later, on his vacation, no less, ignoring his wife and kids. He has been creating an AOS Getting Started series. So writing a document that's now ready for filming. And hopefully we'll start seeing that next week. It's massive. It's going to be very cool.
Nice.
It's going to cover everything, how to play the game, and kind of from the beginners to a little more advanced.
Nice.
So include a link to that. And I think this is the last thing. Andrew Long, just wanted to mention these. So Andrew has been creating, you guys see those Realm Spell cards?
Mm-hmm.
So Andrew, he did those, and then he's created these triumphs within triumphs.
Yep.
So cards, we'll include a link to these. Yeah, just kind of little references to help folks. Since we don't have official versions from G-Dubs quite yet. I did see Yeah.
No, I just want to affirm, like, I've been using Andrew's cards. It's the stuff that I used for the realm spells and all that last year.
Yeah.
And Andrew just puts out just top shelf, top quality content.
It's amazing. I thank you to Games Workshop for letting Andrew continue to do this. But, given that they don't have cards yet for the realm spells, they don't have cards yet for the triumphs. They do have the cards for the hidden agendas, which are awesome, but they're only in Warlord edition. So yeah, they've been really helpful for the community. So thank you, Andrew, and thank you, GW, for allowing me to do that. And that is that for now. All right.
Awesome. Nice. That is a robust pick. All the links will go down below. And yeah, I saw, obviously I had been following Andy's Arch Rev as he was working on it, on Insta and everywhere. And he's great. You should absolutely be following. I'll throw all appropriate links down in the description. Absolutely. All right. Tom, what do you got?
So I don't normally spruik vendors on the show. But I had an idea for my Night Haunt army, and I saw these resin skulls from Green Stuff World. I picked up their flaming skull pack of like 50 skulls. And these, like, it's super fantastic. Like, I can't tell you how stoked I am by the quality of their resin stuff. And so I'm getting ready to start cutting these and putting them on my hex wraiths. But if you all have, like, they don't have a lot of stuff. A lot of what they do have is more 40K oriented. Like, they have like a bunch of like bullet shell casings and stuff like that. And I just would encourage you to check out some of these resin products. Their paint gets a lot of airtime with like the color shift paints and some of the neons and stuff like that they have, or the rollers. Obviously the Green Stuff rollers for like basing, that gets a lot of airtime. But some of these resin, the small resin like ancillary things that they do doesn't get enough airtime, and so I wanted to promote that.
Sweet.
Nice. Yeah. Awesome. All right, my pick of the week is admittedly somewhat self-serving, but it's relevant. So as many of you hopefully know, like, I teach and work with CK Studios, and just recently here this last week, Caleb, the head of the studio, finished up the Warlord Titan that we had all been working on. And if I would have realized it, I would have had some picks ready, because he did just share some picks very recently, but I didn't have them up here. I will share some. I'll re-share to the link. I'll drop it down below. The Warlord Titan that we're doing is for the Nova Open Charitable Foundation raffle that will be happening at Nova. You can buy a ticket for that Titan for $8, and that is probably like a $8,000 piece of work when you figure in all the man hours that go into it and the quality it's painted to. So that's a good deal as things go, I would say. So somebody's gonna pay $8 and win that thing. Why not you?
And you don't have to be there, correct?
That's
Like
correct.
you
You
don't
do
have
not
to be
have to be
present.
there. You can buy the raffle tickets now, and if you're not there in person, you still win it. That's right.
So here's the deal: I'm buying one
Sure.
because, like, it would if I win that, it will be the best $8 ever invested, and it's going to sit right there. I'm going to clear out all of those shelves, and he's just going to stand in my bookcase.
Nice. Yeah, I like it. I dig it. Yeah, so I'll put the link down to go pick those up. It was a really, really great project to work on. Obviously, it was the whole studio. It wasn't just myself. In fact, I would say I probably had, just because of timing, the least to do with it. But it was, myself and Sam and Justin and Dev and Carl and just Devin and Caleb and everybody. Kat, like it took a village to make this thing because it really is a child. It is a small 2-foot tall child, machine of war. So there you go. I agree, Anthony. By the way, Tom, Anthony said he lies. You're going to sell that thing on eBay to go fund your next 3 armies.
I mean, it would be that if I did that, it would be like the next 7 armies. That said, no, I would probably keep it. Probably. I don't know. If somebody offered me like 30 grand for it, I might do it, but
sure. I don't know the rules on overseas shipping, so you'd want to look at that. So, because somebody just mentioned that in the comments, I don't know the rules with the charitable raffle of if you have to be a U.S. resident or something. So I would look into that. But what I will say is, for those worried about, well, I'm not going to be there. How can you ship this, as I just mentioned, 2-foot tall thing to me? Everything in there is magnetized, and it has a case that has been specifically designed for it. So it breaks down like a sniper rifle. I mean, that level of precision goes into a case that has literally been built with every slot for every piece of this thing, and then zips up so it can be shipped completely safely. It's amazing.
I'm not gonna lie, that would make me want to play 40K.
Yeah, I mean it's pretty sweet. It's the studio really went all out for this. It's just amazing between the custom case, Caleb magnetized everything, the work that was done, the color, the freehand, the paint, everything. It is top notch. So, go check it out. And the best part about it is, and what I really want to hone in on here is, it is a charitable foundation, right? And so these raffle tickets you're buying don't go to the Nova Open. They're not going to the people who run the show. They're going to the charity. And specifically, this is going to a charity that helps the families of wounded veterans and those serving in the military. So it is a really, really obviously important charity to us in the studio for multiple reasons. But so, you're not just potentially paying 1/1000th of the cost for a toy. You're also giving some money to help out one of the most important things. So there you go.
Just to be clear on that, buying a raffle ticket, you're buying it for anything in the raffle, not just the Titan.
Right.
Correct?
Or is it you can buy in for specific things. No, you buy for you can buy for anything, but you buy a raffle ticket for a thing. Do you understand what I'm saying? You buy a raffle ticket for the Titan. You're not just buying a generic raffle ticket.
Because and that's what I was asking, because they are raffling off other things as well, right?
There's a ton of stuff. A ton of artists donated awesome stuff. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Absolutely. Okay. All right. So with that being said, let's turn to some hobby time. Tyler, have you painted anything at all?
Of course not. Even though after I promised, I still have to paint that dryad that I promised you with contrast.
I want to see it. I want to see it, Tyler. Contrast paints exist now, Tyler. I expect there to be a painted. We're going to sit down at NashCon, okay? Yeah. And I'm going to force
you guys do that.
Oh, damn it. I am going to be in the same spot in the world with you for a couple of days. Oh, crap.
Yeah.
You better just book your Friday night now. You paint Friday night. Obviously, we're going to go out to dinner, of course. But you're painting. You're painting. Just book it in.
All right. Done.
Okay.
All right. Done deal.
And I agree. As Sean said in the comments, dryads are perfect for contrast. Yes.
Yeah. My daughter,
model.
Yeah, my daughter's about to do that with 30 dryads.
Shut up.
So
Rub it in.
my 8-year-old.
Come on.
Yeah.
You know what? We can compare paint jobs.
Yeah.
Oh, Christ. All right.
So what else have you been hobbying on, Tyler?
Lots of games, lots of Stormcast testing. Yeah, looking for my 3-2 push for 4-1 sweet spot. Got a nice list. Playing did really well with the Sylvaneth playtest yesterday. So hey, newsflash. Yeah, apparently MSU Dryads don't like the Everblaze comment. In case anybody was wondering. Yeah, that's
Nice.
kind of obvious now that you think about it. Yeah, that thing's nasty. You can do tricks like have the Relictor and the Incantor right by each other.
Sure.
Oh, Holy with a 9, and I'm just gonna roll this 3 up and then pop the Incantor out of Combine range, regardless of where your crap is on the board. I can probably get out of 36, out of 30.1 inch away from you, all of your wizards, and then try to get that comment off. So yeah,
You just hope there's no nullification terrain over on their side, because then it really gets.
Oh no, it's all good.
Well, no, that's actually good.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
That lets you put down your thing and then just get rid of it for recasting it next turn.
That's what I'm talking about. You as the opponent of Stormcast hope that you as the Stormcast player are very excited about it.
Indeed, yeah. I was reading that the other night. Slanesh, I played 2 Sylvaneth test games in the last 2 nights, and it's like that can't be how that works with a nullification. I guess if you have got shackles or something, sure, there's some disadvantage because it's gonna take your shackles off the board. But I don't know. I was a little shocked that's apparently how that works right now.
Yeah, I don't think nullification works the way they wanted it to work, and they didn't realize it and correct it in the FAQ. So now it just works.
It just needs to be. It needs to simply say endless spells cannot be set up within X inches of this terrain.
Right.
Done.
Yeah.
That's what. Yep. That would solve it.
Yeah.
Then you're not just free smashing into the thing, killing everything around it, getting all the use you actually wanted, and then getting a free recast. Yeah.
Anyway, digging the list. So I've got an actual painted list together now. It's Celestin Prime, Relictor, Heraldor, Incantor, Azeros, 10 Libs, 2x5 Judicators, 2x5 Vanguard Hunters. I'm in love with Vanguard Hunters.
Yeah, man.
Like
I've liked them for a while. They're better. Like they are becoming better.
My son likes them too.
Yeah, I think they're fun.
Tom, I'm not going to be back on the show. I'm supposed to be a respectable contributor here.
No. Like my son's.
Oh, is he like?
As I shared with Vince, I think I've racked up more losses to my son than I have in organized tournament play.
Yeah.
Like I think that's just the reality that I live in.
Yeah.
And so that's not a bad thing. Like that's not a negative comment.
All right, right on. Yeah, 2x5 Vanguard Hunters. I'm just playing around. And then what else is in that list? Oh, 3 Great Swords, 3 Kurnoth Great Swords, a little bit of Combat Punch, Everblaze Comment, and I think that's about it. Oh, 3 Long Strikes. Yeah, it's combined arms. It's probably gonna struggle with hordes, but it's pretty good at killing 5-6 wound heroes from range.
Sure, absolutely.
And it's fun.
Nice, right on. Tommy, what are you working on, buddy?
I am working. I've been playing D&D since Friday.
Yeah, we did do a 4-day D&D marathon, basically. So yeah.
Yeah, like I didn't get home until yesterday. So I really haven't been working on anything of significance. But now I've sat down and I'm working through my hex race. Like I said, I finally got my skulls, so I'm super stoked about that. That's been an exciting kind of fun exploration. I'm looking forward to getting some primer on these guys.
Nice.
Still pushing for the triple activation with the Battalion and the Necromancer?
Maybe.
In answer to the question that was just asked in the comments of did I TPK them? No, I did not. In all seriousness, we don't I don't think I haven't killed a party in years because it's not what I'm all about or the experience that I kind of go for. Like it's a very narrative story driven thing. Now, and I try really hard to tell an engaging character driven story that's got emotional resonance and all that. Now, that being said, I did kill Tom's character. That did legitimately happen.
And there's a rule around their table that when a character dies, like if your character dies, you have to drink Diet Burners.
Yeah. It's the worst thing in the universe. It is the most offensively awful drink. I keep a whole 6-pack chilled, so if there is a wipeout, everybody at the table and the GM has to all drink it.
Yep.
Any player who dies, they have to drink the Diet Vernors to suffer for their loss. Diet Vernors is anathema to.
It's like
It'll keep
battery
people.
acid.
It really is. It's like battery acid. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's the best way I can describe it. It's horrendous.
So yeah, I died.
We are clearly we're not sponsored by Vernors.
Exactly. So I died, and then I came back from an NPC that was already in the game, and ended up like becoming the future emperor. So
You had a better character. You came back better. There you go.
I came back better in every way.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely. All right. For myself, I'm still working on this stupid display board. It is the project that will never end, and I hate it. I hate all display boards, and at this point, I am so sick of this. I have all the buildings more or less done, and now what I'm working on is the cobblestones. So if you looked at my bases for my Slanesh, right, they have those kinds of that white and blue cobblestone action, right? And so the town itself that they're occupying also has a ton of those cobblestones in it. So I have
Vince made a wonderful mistake.
So I have to paint about 1,500 cobblestones by hand, and that means like every one of them has to get touched individually. Like we're not dry brushing these. When I say paint each cobblestone, I mean like that's a minimum.
Go watch this video on
That's-
painting
yeah, that's like-
non-gray cobblestones.
Yeah, that's like 3 touches to every cobblestone plus the glazing to smooth it out every time. So it's
Painting
just like,
sounds so appealing when you talk about it.
yeah. Well, display
worst.
boards are awful, and so here we are. Yeah. So we're working our way through it. We're in the home stretch, I guess. I don't know. I don't even know. I
Nice.
can't say that for sure. I've rounded second. How about that? I don't know if I've crossed third yet. The third base coach is he's giving me the signal. We'll see. But now I'm about to go away to Gen Con for 4 days, so it's going to sit there and be waiting on me like the sword of Damocles when I get back. Exciting.
On
There we go.
behalf of everyone, thank you for finally getting a camera that actually shows off the real quality of your painted miniatures.
Oh,
That only took how many years? But it happened.
all the years. Yeah.
Are you saying like a still camera or a motion camera?
a
Whatever camera you got that has led to the photos we've been seeing over the last month or so.
Yeah.
No, he's just learned how to take photos.
That's correct. I
Oh,
finally,
okay.
it's the same camera. I've had the same camera for about a year. I just
Gotcha.
literally last month learned how to actually take pictures. Like,
Okay,
I know that
right on.
sounds stupid,
Yeah.
but like, there's a lot of different settings on that camera, and I don't know what any of them mean. And I watched a lot of videos and still didn't know what any of them meant. Like,
Yeah.
I needed somebody to teach me. So finally, somebody who knew what they were doing taught me, and I was like, oh, okay, now I get this. So then I was able
Yeah.
to do it. Like, sometimes you just got to be shown in person. Like I just wasn't getting it. So anyway, because the problem with a
Awesome.
lot of the explanation videos are like, well, this thing is this thing, and then they go like way too deep down this one rabbit hole, and I was like, no. There's also not a lot out there about like getting whatever. Doesn't matter. It works now. I don't care. Who cares? There you go.
They were great.
Yay. So yeah, I'll finish up my display board, and then I was putting together over the weekend. I got this guy. There you go. You two can't see him, but it's the
Not at all.
It's the Drakon from Creature.
Oh,
Master.
I know that guy. Yeah, it's the Shaggoth,
Yeah, the big
the
shaggy
Dragon
dude.
over Shaggoth. Yeah.
So I got that big dude. He's together. I'll work on him at some point. I don't know when he's gonna get painted. Sometime. I'm not sure yet, but sometime. I got a lot of other things I want to do. I got 2 like keeper of secret conversions I want to do, plus the other keeper. I got to get up to like 7 painted keepers or 8 painted keepers. Otherwise, I'm just not keeping it real. So yes. There you
Yeah.
go.
Then, as Doom said, whack player doing what whack players do.
That's right, exactly. Yes, I am. Shout out to the new Doomcast episode. We kind of mentioned it in the pick of the week. That's why I didn't pick it, but it is a worthwhile listen, and I appreciate Doom using me as an example of somebody who was accidentally being a whack player.
Yeah.
It's like my armies are like Ironjaw, Skaven, Slanesh, and Doc, and it's like, look, I wasn't trying to do this. I played most of these for years. I played
Lies.
Skaven for 22 years. Like I don't know what happened. So
Yeah.
there you go.
I never realized that until he pointed it out. It's literally your 4 armies, all of them now. It's hilarious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention Siege World is happening next weekend. So August 10th and 11th, an event in St. Louis. It's going to be awesome. So it's 2 days. It's a different format. So Saturday is 2K. So we get 3 games of 2K. And then Sunday we're doing meeting engagement. I think 4 rounds for meeting engagement at 1,000 points. So anybody wants to take a trip out to Missouri next weekend, August 10th and 11th, Siege World, just Google that. It'll be a lot of fun. I think 25 plus players right now.
Nice. Awesome. Very good. Okay. So, gentlemen, are we ready to get into the to go into the woods? Are we ready to find our happy cabin in the woods, to talk about the trees, to dance amongst the spirits of the forest? Shall we?
As long as we don't have a lot of bad tree puns tonight, I don't think I can take it.
Well, I don't have the skill at puns. Like,
Okay.
I think Haywo is watching, so if he wants to feed tree puns into the comments, I will gladly repeat them.
Sure. Okay.
Because I do love a good tree pun.
That's probably a sufficient standard. Yeah, if he's doing it. All right.
He is the pun master. Yes.
Yeah.
But at any rate, let's start at the beginning. Let's start with the 40,000 foot view. Okay.
Yeah.
Which, as always, where we begin. So, obviously, you've been following the trees for a long time, since Sylvaneth book 1, basically, Tyler.
3 years. Yeah.
Yeah.
Day 1.
So, what do you think of the new book? Just give us the high level. Like, what's your general take on it, your sense, that kind of thing.
So, yeah, I mean, as usual, one of my go-tos is to sort of think about 2 different hats, at least 2 different hats. So you've got the top tables hat, the tier 1 hat, tier 1 space, and then you've got what you recently called the fat middle hat, the tier 2 space hat. The tier 2 space hat, that space, it's pretty big. It's a fairly sizable spectrum right now, I would say. You've got a lot of different things that are going on, a lot of different armies, factions, etc. So where is this? You think about Sylvaneth from those 2 points of view, wearing those 2 different hats. So from a top table perspective, I think this army more than most is going to have to be played for us to really find out. There is, when I sat down and tried to think about this from an optimization standpoint relative to the meta as we know it and what we might see in the coming months, I do think there's sort of the design pattern. There's a pattern there that could be competitive in the current meta on top tables, where you've got to try to cover the spectrum. You've got Slaanesh, Flesh Eater Corpse, activation wars in general. You've got hard-hitting combat armies like Iron Jaws that could just turn 1 charge, outdrop you, turn 1 charge, blow you off the board. You're gonna have to be able to deal with that. If you just got a gun line and you don't have enough bodies, screens, you're just gonna, that's not gonna go well for you. And then so you've got a spectrum. You got hordes are part of that end of the spectrum as well. Skaven, a lot of bodies, plague monks, etc. So can Sylvaneth cover reasonably? Can they compete with that in mind? I think I want to talk about a build or variations of a build that I had in mind tonight and see what you guys think about it. In general, I don't think the answer is yes. Like when I look at them, they look to me like wearing that second hat, the kind of book that we would love to see most books. Yeah.
It's a very Gloomspite Gets style book.
Yeah. And if your primary objective, if your goal as Games Workshop, rules writers, etc., and if part of our goal as a community, if we want the vast majority of factions, builds, etc., to be hanging out in the fat middle, this is a fantastic book. I think it's an amazing book in that regard. Yeah. So that's kind of at a very high level.
No, I would agree with that. I'm glad to see that the fat middle concept is catching on. I agree with it. What we want is a fat middle, right? Whatever we can argue about what that means as far as the tolerance we're willing to withstand, but that's obviously our goal. And I think my tolerance level would be probably higher than some people's. Like everybody's going to have their own thing they want to bring to that. Like everything's got to be within 5% of whatever. Like, okay, that's probably too tight. You know what I mean? Just reasonable for the statistical anomalies will still happen in our world. Mm-hmm. But like, my strong feeling after reading this book is, oh, good, we got another one right where we want it. Yes. Right? Like it felt like another Gets level, Blades of Corn level, like, you can pick the ones that aren't Skaven and FEC, basically.
Right. Yeah.
And that's where it's at. So. And
I don't know, like, I'm curious your guys' perspective on this, because I sometimes feel like as a community, we don't talk enough about the meta, whatever, the community, the landscape, with that second hat, wearing that second hat, in addition to switching over to the, what's really competitive on top tables. What's, sort of the difference between, okay, we want books that are 3-2 that can push for 4-1 versus 4-1 pushing for 5-0 or just flat out, 5-0 type builds.
Right.
That can be out there. It seems like, I don't know, do you guys think what we need to, I do feel like there are two different distinct hats that at least you need to talk about at the same, you need to talk about both to cover the different perspectives on them.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, yes, it's more interesting too. Like, we can all sit around and talk about things we think are broken all day, and that's fine. Like, some things are bent or whatever, and we know they're there. The problems of what's bent or out of whack is extremely minimal compared to what they've been at sometimes in the past. That doesn't mean they're not a problem. It just means, like, we're not dealing with bentness on a level where the game used to be. There are things that should be addressed. And I think over time they largely have been when we look at things like that. I don't know what you're talking about. Slaanesh is fine. I will tell Slaanesh is fine. It's fine. This is all
It's all fine.
I can't wait till like we go back and see where I was like, Slaanesh summoning's broken. It's really really strong, and Vince is like, it's fine. Everything's good. Don't worry about it. It'll be fine. And then I'm right.
No, look, I already told you how this is going to happen. Okay. And first of all, how could you be right? Like, what does that even mean? What in your world does God come down and go like, Tom?
No,
you were
like
correct.
Slaanesh's
summoning was too powerful.
No, that the universal consensus comes to agree that it is too powerful. That it needs corrected.
I don't care if that's the case. The universal consensus could be easily wrong. 1, 2. I've already told you it's gonna get changed. I've already said that what's going to happen is I already locked in this prediction. 1, they're not that good. 2, they're good. They're just not that good. They're not totally super bent broken. 2, they will be perceived as super bent broken and punch way above their weight. 3, people will complain about said bent brokenness. 4, people will respond. Slaanesh will fall out of being in high contention in a lot of ways because of the evolution of other things in the meta. 5, the new adjustment will happen at the end of the year and we'll get kicked in the teeth. Yeah, I am excited about it. Good. Kick it in the teeth. Then we can all shut up. And I'll just have my army that I like, and I won't have to be a guest star on Whacked Player of the Week cast anymore. I'm fine with it.
Yeah, I'm partially joking about the Slaanesh summoning comment. I still think we need to get into serious mode again. I think we still need to have more time than we've had so far with it, honestly. And that it appears the way to run Slaanesh is max out on your heroes for kind of seemingly obvious reasons. But I would think that there are some costs that get associated with doing that. I mean, I've played Slaanesh about a half dozen times, and I'm not playing against Reliant or whomever.
Sure.
But I'm definitely seeing some limitations, some trade-offs that they're having to make when you're maxing out on heroes, for example. Like a number of these games, I've been able to get up on scoring early and then hold on long enough with screens, keeping them off my objectives for long enough that they can't claw their way back as the summoning is happening and my army is getting destroyed. And of course, there's going to be a lot of shooting in the meta, KO, Shoecast, potentially Sylvaneth, etc. That all else equal is going to be a challenge for Slaanesh. Yeah. So I don't know. I think it's not the Slaanesh show, but I do think that there are a number of factors that we need to pump the brakes a little bit and not get too crazy too quickly here about their summoning and everything. Give it a little bit more time, but it's obviously strong.
It is strong, and I'm fine with it. Let's go back to talking about trees. That's what we're here for.
Right.
We're here to talk. You can't. I don't think you're watching the show live right now, Tyler, so you can't see it. But I do want you to know that right under me, like down here on the screen, right down here. Okay, again, you can't see me, but right below me is a big picture of Alariel. I brought that up just for you while we're doing this. She's been there the whole time, my Alariel. So despite my joking about her, she has a beautiful, gorgeous model. So I did put her down there. So there you go.
Well, we've established your sense of aesthetics are warped by spending too much time with Slaanesh. Yeah.
Like what I'm gonna do is over the course of the show, I'll just slowly bring the Slaanesh Alariel Archeal in, and she'll just take it over.
Oh shit! All right, good times.
All right. Tom, what's your overall feeling?
I think that it's well rounded. is what I would say.
Yeah.
I don't think that it skews too hard in any one direction. And I think that there are a couple viable builds that go different directions with the Wargroves, and I think that we will see some of them show up in the numbers, like on the scoreboard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
I agree. All right.
Yeah,
So let's
it's an amazing, like, kudos to the Games Workshop and everyone involved in producing this book. There's one big asterisk, which is pretty obvious, particularly for old Sylvaneth players with this book and how the army functions, which we'll get into. But setting that aside, I think it is an incredible product. There's so much viable variety. Almost every single war scroll is playable. Again, principally wearing that fat middle tier 2 space hat.
Right.
It's an outstanding book.
all right. I agree completely. So let's get into it. Let's talk about some elements here. And we can start right at the beginning. Like, let's just real quick, I'm going to lay down some allegiance stuff, and that'll get us right into the hot goss. So it'll be time for the hot takes. Hot takes. All right, here we go. Okay. So what are your allegiance abilities? All right. Well, you got your whole be in the forest thing, which is basically Night Haunt and Stormcast. Only you're in woods instead of the spirit realm or up in heaven, right?
Yep.
You've got your navigate your realm routes, where you can take one unit, you can zip them through woods and have them pop out somewhere else, 9 inches away from people. You know, some other wood, right? Fair enough. So again, like we're very used to. You have this ability called Places of Power, where after territories have been chosen, but before armies are set up, you pick one terrain feature, and you don't take battle shock tests for friendly Sylvaneth units while they're wholly within 6 of it. Okay, cool. We'll come back to that in a second. You have your various Glades, right? There's a bunch. Obviously, all the old sort of mega super battalions became the new Glades.
Yep.
And you start on the table with Wildwood, right? Now there are, I think you said there's 4 different ways to get them, right?
Yeah, I believe so. After the pre-deployment.
Right. After your pre-deployment woods. There's a bunch of other ways to get them, and we'll talk those through. But there is a slightly different case between the pre-deployment and the other ones, and that'll be relevant in a minute, right?
Right.
Okay. So first thing I want to say is, let's talk about, are you going to be clicking, Tom? Are you clipping stuff?
Nope.
Don't clip stuff. It just pulls the camera back to you, and you're just sitting there when it should be when you're not talking. All right. At any rate, so Place of Power. How did we get this rule in here and miss the trick of just making that how woods work? How? We literally put in a thing where you get to pick a piece of terrain on the board already pre-existing, and it has an effect, right?
Yeah.
Why is it not just like, pick a thing, that's a woods now?
Yeah.
And then the spell that you cast, I mean, you can still set up your woods. You can still have a terrain piece. I understand GW wants to sell woods. Cool beans. Sell woods. I don't care, right? You get to set up woods. You get to pick one to be woods, and the spells turn other terrain pieces into woods.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. Yeah, Scott Sproul was the first person to mention this to me about a month before you mentioned it on one of your shows. And yeah, it seemed like an elegant idea at the time, and it still does. I mean, there's different ways you could go about doing it, but sure, that would work.
It's mind-boggling to me that we literally put in a rule about selecting terrain and changing its function, and we're like, nah, we're not going to do the easy thing here. All right.
Yeah.
So let's talk about woods. Let's talk about Woods Gate, shall we? Woods Gate. All right. So the Awakened Wildwood. Okay. Your pre-deployment Awakened Wildwood can be set up anywhere on the battlefield that is more than 1 inch from any other terrain features, more than 1 inch from enemy territory, and more than 6 inches away from any objectives. So very far away from objectives.
Woodsgate is totally not what I thought we were going to talk about.
Okay.
Woodsgate is not what my Woodsgate is.
Oh, gotcha. All right. Well, that's fine. We'll get to a separate woods-related controversy. Oh, these trees. Will they ever not be the problem with this army? Answer, no. No, they will always be what makes this army terrible.
Yep.
So, okay.
Reset the clock.
Reset the clock, exactly. We'll get another bite of this apple in 2022. And I look forward to it. Okay. So obviously the conflict here is with the GHB FAQ terrain rules that say faction terrain, which this is, right,
Mm-hmm.
has to be set up more than 3 inches from any other terrain features. That specifically being the element that clashes, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then in addition, how does that then interact with your later woods, right? Which do not your non-pre-deployment woods don't
Yeah.
have this same restrictions. Like they can be an inch away from objectives and an inch
Yeah, I
away from other
believe.
terrain.
Right. I believe all of them are 1 inch away from terrain objectives and models.
Yep. That's right. So does the GHB take precedent? Does this overrule that? Because the GHB specifically says use this plus other rules you have, right?
Right. So some folks on Twitter, I sent out a tweet asking for thoughts on the new book, and we got a long thread going. And some folks were talking about this whole 6 inch thing. That's not an issue at all. The 6 inches, as Vince just said, is only related to the pre-deployment initial Awakened Wildwood.
Right.
And it's only in the context of objectives, 6 inch away from objectives. That's the only thing that's relevant to 6 inches.
Right.
Yep.
Exactly. Post that, once you get into actual like Verdant Blessing Woods or Acorn Woods or,
Right.
or Alariel making somebody into a
And
woods, right? Or
Tree
whatever.
Lord Ancient, Tree Lord Ancient, Silent Communion. Yep.
Yep. All that stuff is just basically an inch away from other stuff. That's what it, you could sum up their rules by like, you put up the woods 1 inch from other stuff.
Yep. Yep.
Okay. So the question is really just the GHB thing. And I assume we'll see an answer to that when the FAQ comes out. I've got to imagine that gets answered. I hope somebody has answered that.
Well, that's another thing. I haven't seen that many FAQ questions so far. This appears to be the best book in that regard that I can remember. There's a few a few others that we'll get into, but I don't know that many.
Yep.
All right. So, Tom, what's your woods gate? You're on mute, Tom. Oh, there you go.
I know I am. I'm fine. Yeah, it was the reality that like they're making all the Sylvaneth players rebuy all their woods.
Yeah.
Right?
Well,
Like this is for
but
like
are they?
Well, if you're do you want to go ahead, Tom?
No, I mean, yes. If you want to play the new book, yes. Right, Tyler?
If you want to play the new book competitively, yes.
Yeah.
So the summary of the situation is, so they put out a very short fact that says you are more than welcome to use your existing old Citadel woods as a new Awakened Wildwood. But the way that it's worded, the interpretation at least, it's not entirely clear, but the interpretation, the right one, in my opinion, is you can only use one of the old Citadel wood bases as one Awakened Wildwood. You can't put like two together.
Right.
And claim that that's a ring. So it's limited to one, and I think that's intended. And then with the new ones, they have redefined how they're using the nomenclature Citadel Wood. Now it's Citadel Wood models. So a new Awakened Wildwood kit consists of 3, when you buy it, you'll get 3 Citadel Wood models. And 2 of them are essentially about the same size, but one of them smaller and quite a bit smaller. Now an Awakened Wildwood, the new Warscroll, can consist of 3, 4, 5, or 6 Citadel Wood models. So that means that, and I've actually maybe I'll just screen share real quick. You can have a wide
6. I didn't catch that. Yeah.
3 to 6. Yeah. A wide variance in the footprint size of these Awakened Wildwoods. So you can now fit them.
You never use the small base of the small one, right? Like you could only you don't have to use the sets of 3. If one is smaller, you could use 2 from each set to make 6 of the very large forest, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you could just choose. So let's say you buy 3 of the Awakened Wildwood kits. Great. Yep. You've got 3 small ones. Those 3 small ones will form a very small ring that you can fit in a lot of tight spaces that previously you would not have been able to fit that big Citadel Wood base in the old version. So for that reason alone, with the size variance that's possible now, you are really incentivized to buy a bunch of these new Wildwood kits at $50 a pop. This is the sort of obvious critique of Sylvaneth going forward. I mean, I'm not like a lot of Sylvaneth players. I feel like that. Well, I don't even like saying that. Anyway, in my opinion, it's a bad idea to incentivize us to need to spend $250 on woods. I'd be on board for $100 or less. You know, every other army is here's your one terrain piece for what, $35? One terrain piece.
Yep.
And the woods are 50 a pop, so that's a little weird. Anyway, so let me do a screen share real quick,
Yeah, sure.
and we'll look at
I'll
these
log
size
on here.
variants. Cool.
Yeah, and this is what I'm talking about. Is that like for most people they don't realize the actual like impact of something like this.
Sure. Oh, by the
Okay.
way, I did figure out how to change the name of the stream midstream just now because somebody mentioned it had shown up under the wrong name. Now I know how to change it right away at live, so I'll do that from now on. See, we're learning. Things are improving.
Awesome.
And our audio is better.
Yeah, we're getting there. It's going to take a little while, but we'll get there. Thank you all for being patient. Please continue, Tyler.
So do you guys see this?
Yeah.
Okay, so part of the new rules with the Awakened Wildwood War Scroll is that these tips, each tip needs to be roughly pointing inward, and each tip has to touch another touch tips all around. So here's 6. This is roughly the max size of what a wildwood could look like. And of course, there's Durthu in the middle, quite big. If you can find a spot on the board, we can plot that down. Good on you. Here is, now it's not perfect because that's not Durthu there. That's the new Glade War Scroll, but you get a sense that's quite small. So, and all the size variance in between those two examples. That's very significant for competitive play.
And how does that compare to the old wood?
The old wood is similar in footprint. I actually don't have a photo of that one. I could probably get it here real quick. Yeah, I'll stop sharing my screen and I'll go find a photo of it. If you just do the new Awakened Wildwood kit with the 2 similar sizes and then the one smaller, that roughly forms the footprint of the old Citadel wood base. It's not exact, but it's similar. So while we're going here, I'll find a photo from Aaron Wilson, a competitive Sylvaneth player. He took some photos comparing them, and I'll get those up here in a minute.
Nice. So as usual, the woods are the whole problem with the book. Okay, got it. You're really incentivized to buy a bunch of these things. If you want to do well, at least that's my early impression. Well, let's get into some talk on the actual rules so we can see how necessary these woods are, right? So
there is an asterisk to that. Yeah, actually, that's not true in general. They have designed this book where there are going to be play styles that don't require, and in fact, you really don't want to have a lot of woods on the table. For example, if you have a lot of Kurnoth bows, you're not going to want a crap load of woods on your table.
Right.
So, yeah.
Which is what I was going to talk about. I looked at that and I was like, oh, actually, that was one of the builds that sort of appealed to me on first read. I was like, well, we've got some very interesting Kurnoth shooty options here. Yeah.
Definitely.
Which I'm very excited about. Like, Kurnoth Hunters were always my favorite new kit they produced out of that new round. I just thought they were like the really rock star standout looking unit. Now that we actually have them proper, well, I mean, she's okay.
But totally, yeah, they're incredible.
No, I really do think Kurnoth are just an amazingly good sculpt, and now that they have they're actually split out into their appropriate 3 builds, so we can price them differently if we need to. All 3 have some interesting elements to their rules now. We can argue about which one is actually best, but at least there's not one that's just like, nope, never taking that one anymore, so that's good. Which let's get into it. Okay, so that's Woodsgate. We'll FAQ will answer, I suspect, a lot of questions around Woodsgate, right?
Yep.
Okay, what I want to do here is I want to actually start not with the command traits and the magic items and that kind of garbage because so little of that actually matters until after we talk about something else. So first thing to understand is that now Verdant Blessing is a spell that everybody gets, cast on a 6, lets you set up 1 wood within 24 inches. All your wizards have it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So step the first. Let's all understand that. Okay, so we do have...
And one of the fact issues that we do need to get clarity on is whether Verdant Blessing is counted as a deep wood lore spell. It's on the same page, but it's not in the sort of sectioned off box.
Yeah.
Right. So that's going to be another fact that we need to get answered.
Right. That is a very good call.
Yeah.
Okay, because there is some interactions with that stuff. What I actually want to start with here is the Glades, right?
Mhm.
Because I think the Glades are actually the lens you should look at this book through, because they are interesting. I feel that there's so many of them, and they're so very. There's a lot of actually difference in here, and there's a
Mm.
couple that I looked at and went, no, like hard no. But there are multiple that I feel are compelling, right? That I look at and go, okay, you know,
Were those two hard-nosed oak and brown ironbark?
I'm not gonna say specifically, but we'll get into it. All right. So let's talk about so anyways, that's where I want to start, right? Let's
Okay.
talk about the Glades. And you mentioned it, so let's just get right into it. Glade the first. It's
Yeah.
Oakenbrow. All right, so Oakenbrow, what do we get out of this wonderful thing here, right? We're so excited about Oakenbrow. What do we get? Well, the ability is you get to subtract 2 from the number of wounds suffered by your Oakenbrow Spirits of Durthu, Tree Lord Ancients, and Tree Lords from the wounds they've suffered on the table. So they always count as 2 lower, right? So like they can take, what is it? Are they all 0 to 3? Is where
0 to
they,
3, I
yeah.
believe. No, 0 to 2, I believe.
Is it?
I'll check right now. Yeah.
I don't have it right in front of me. But anyways, point being is that in either case, if they
0 to
had 4
2.
wounds, 0 to 2, okay. So if they had 4 wounds, they would still count as having only 0 to 2. Cool. Okay.
Right.
Neat. Your Spirit of Durthu keeps his 6 damage sword longer. Great.
I mean, would it be over the top to just have that be you ignore the damage table for your big boys?
No. No. Or just like, if you don't like that, just you always count as 1 step lower completely, or 2 steps. If you count as 2 steps lower, right? You know what I'm saying? So you got to get up into the 4th step before you actually start suffering penalties. Something
Yeah.
like that could be interesting. Like you could have broken this ability in a lot of different interesting ways. As it is now, my response is, cool.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, I experienced this in 40K for what it's worth. I and they had a similar thing running like Wraith Knights, and yeah, it didn't seem it was similar to how they did this. It wasn't you just fully ignore it. You just go down. You gain a tier back, basically. You know, you go down a tier
Right.
relative to where you are, and it wasn't a significant enough impact. So yeah, I would just think you could just say
Yeah,
they ignore
compared
that.
to, by the way, like the Knight Titans, who are the Imperial Knights, who
Right.
have the same rule. One of the houses does, and that
Yeah.
house halves its wound suffered for the
Oh wow.
purposes of the table. So yes, that exists too. And believe me, that one, it's impactful.
It's
When your
yeah.
knight is beat to heck and is like at half wounds and is running at a quarter wounds
Right.
instead, it's a big difference. Okay. Anyway, okay. Their command ability is make a unit of dryads immune to battle shock. Great. Another winner.
Mhm.
Your command trait is your general has 1 additional wound. Awesome. And your artifact gives a single character a 6-up against wounds and mortal wounds.
Yeah.
So I think what we can all agree is that this one is unbelievably powerful, completely broken, and we just, there's just we're gonna see Oakenbrow dominating every table, right? That's what we're all saying.
Yeah. Clearly.
You know what? You know what really breaks this for me?
What grinds your gears on this one, other than it has nothing good in it?
Right. Well, like
Zero good things.
ignore the command trait, ignore the artifact of power.
No,
Like,
hold on. The Oakenbrow, somebody said you can take dwarf allies. No, the Oakenbrow isn't even the good one you can take dwarf allies. That's
Yeah.
Ironbark.
That's Ironbark. Yeah.
Yeah.
This one has nothing. Continue.
The problem here for me is the contrast between the ability, which focuses on big monsters, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And the command ability, which focuses on hordes.
Right.
And
Like-
the command trait and the artifact, which do nothing.
Nothing. Like, but the problem is that like there's a fundamental disconnect between this. Like, Lofnir, in Fire Slayers suffer from the same thing, where
Yeah,
they're trying to incentivize Magmadroths and then trying to incentivize a bunch of shooters like Orc Hearthguard. It's not
Right.
inherently a problem, but like the command trait. So you have a bunch of monsters, but in order to make those shooters battle line, you have to have a foot rune master, and like so what ends up happening is the incentive structure that ends up getting created pulls the army apart inherently
Yeah.
to make it non-viable, and
It's
like
the-
that's
it's
what's
the-
happening here.
It's the Torlong Glade.
Yeah. Let's just call this what it is, garbage, and move on. Okay.
Yeah.
Next up,
I really love that if it had changed to you just ignore the damage table, that would be pretty sweet. Because then
it'd be a
Dorothy
neat
was
monster
always
mash one, yeah.
Dorothy was always at 6 damage on his sword, and the tree lords get more interesting. Yeah, I think that would have been pretty cool.
Right. All right, Gnarl Root. So Gnarl Root is, I think, more interesting. So let's get into this one. You get to reroll hit rolls of 1 for attacks made by friendly Gnarl Root units while they're within 12 inches of a wizard, wholly within 12 inches of a wizard. Okay, pretty cool. Reroll hit rolls of 1 is always nice to be sort of spamming out because there's a lot of little wizards you could have around. And then their command ability basically gives a unit the 6-up thing that was the magic item we just talked about, the wound or mortal wound negation. But as a command ability, I'm not sure that I hate it, so okay. That's fine. The command trait lets you, once in each of your hero phases, if this general successfully casts a spell that is not unbound, you get to pick a Gnarl Root unit wholly within 18 and heal them. Okay, that's all right.
Yeah,
and then we get to the entire reason I've actually been reading this.
Yes.
Because this is like, you could read those first 3 and be like, yeah, all right.
Yeah.
It's fine, I guess.
What happened to Gnarl Root?
Right. And then you get to this one, you're like, oh, they just like drained. I feel like it's one of those, it's like a sieve or like one of those champagne things where all the wine came, or all the champagne came down to the bottom. Artifact of Power. When making a casting or unbinding roll for the bearer, roll 3d6. Remove 1 dice of your choice and then use the remaining 2d6 to determine the casting or unbinding roll. Hello. You're a super gray seer, right? Because you eat rocks all the time. Yeah, that's a great
you can do some really fun tricks with this. So a few things. You can take Bellwind, Bellwind Vortex, and the Umbral spell portal. So you give the artifact 1 branch wraith. She casts Bellwind with 3d6. Take the highest 2, so that should go off. You cast spell portal on a 5-up with another branch wraith. Put that spell portal within an inch of the Bellwind branch wraith. You've got another spell to cast. Now you're got the spell portal up and extra 6-inch range going through it, as I understand it with the rules. Casting Burnt Blessing on 3d6. Pick the 2 highest. That's pretty reliable. There's a number of things, with the Bellwind, even without the spell portal, that you could do. Yeah, did I get that wrong?
No, you got it. But you can hide all of that inside a forest.
Yes, that was the next thing. Yeah.
And if you put the spell portal close enough, it's not having to pass over an inch, so it's within range. And or no, it wouldn't even matter. Yeah, just put the spell portal in there, and it can trigger out of the woods.
Yep.
And on top of all of that, you can throw in cogs there for an additional cast as well if you want.
Right.
Yeah, obviously the challenge here is that you do, as has been pointed out in the comments, yes. You do have a bunch of like 1-cast wizards you can give this to. I mean, I long for the world where Alariel could pick this thing up, but she ain't picking it up, right?
Yeah.
So it's like your other casters are all single spell casters, and that's just the world we live in.
Yeah, but again, because of the situation where if now you may be dependent on outdropping your opponent and playing classic Sylvaneth, where you're taking first and getting your woods out without having to worry about a lot of crap being thrown in your face and getting pinned in your deployment, which we'll talk more about later as a potential real problem with high drops. You can do an Acorn of the Ages or a Tree Lord Ancient, and as Tom was just alluding to, you can auto plop out a Wildwood as a good screen for that Bellwind branch wraith. And then she's going to get up there, and succeeding turn, she's going to be casting 2 spells and 3d6 dice, unbinding, only 1 unbind, unfortunately. And then, -2 to hit, as long as you have her wholly within 6 inches of that wood, and then within 3 inches, within 3 inches of a unit of 3 or more models for Lookout Sir. So anyway, there's some nice tricks you can do with it.
Sure.
It's a fun, neat combo that is not reliable enough at like table 1, 2, and 3. But I think that it could get you to table 1, 2, and 3. Does that make sense? Where I think that this, I think a list like this could go 4 and 1. I know that's super aggressive, but I think it could. I think it's definitely possible. I don't think it's the best the book has to offer, but I think it's certainly playable.
Okay. Do you want to like do Vince? I don't know if you want to get into like quick summaries of potential builds. I could go 4-1, just at a very high level, like touching on the units that you're thinking about, Tom. Or you want to save on that?
I mean, I think you've hit a lot of the combo. Is like going heavy spellcasting. I think that yeah, I don't want to go into it because I don't want the show to run 4 hours.
Right. Cool. Fair enough. Sounds good.
Right on. All right. Instead, let's. I mean, like, if we have units we think make obvious sense, we can talk about them in these contexts because some of these are going to behoove certain very obvious things, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, Null Root is so one way to think about Null Root is classic Sylvaneth. A friend of mine, Michael Thornton, in some of our playtests, he's been playing Sylvaneth, and we were looking at a 4-drop Null Root, for example. That's very classic Sylvaneth. A lot of dryads. Of course, there are a lot of armies that get on top tables that are 4 drops, so you may need to be 3 drops, and that gets really challenging with competitive Sylvaneth lists that I've seen so far. That's another big question we should discuss. Can you play this army competitively? You know, sort of what does the landscape look like in terms of high drops, low drops? What do you need to be doing? But yeah, we've been looking at some builds that are very low, getting a lot of woods out. Ancient, Acorn, Reliable Verdant Blessing. You got a lot of woods on the table, and you can have pretty good range with the Bellwind, potentially the Spell Portal, Dryads bunkering, etc. So, and still enough room for like 6 sides. This is very classic sort of Null Root Sylvaneth, some of the lists we were looking at.
Yep. Right on. All right. Next up, we have Heartwood. I will be interested to get your take on this one, Tyler. So let's talk Heartwood real quick. All right. Abilities. You get to add 1 to the bravery characteristic of stuff around heroes. Cool. Next, the command ability, which I think is pretty decent. You basically pick an enemy unit within 12, not wholly within, just within 12 of a friendly hero. And until the end of that phase, you can reroll hit and wound rolls of 1 for attacks that made by your friendly stuff that target that unit. I always tend to like abilities like this because they're so range independent, right? Like you just like pick that one thing and say, kill that thing right there. I tend to like abilities like that.
I think it's great. Yeah.
Yeah. And as a you know, that feels like a spell effect riding around on a command ability, right? So it's an uncounterable thing.
And that it's not, as you said, it's not holy. That's big.
Right. And then you've got the Legacy of Valor, their command trait, which is when the general dies, some mortal wounds maybe happen unless they get shot. Then nothing happens. So awesome. And then we have the Artifact of Power, which is like, I think quite good, but somewhat duplicative with the thing I just said on the command ability, which is you can reroll hit rolls for attacks made by friendly Heartwood Kurnoth hunters wholly within 12 of the bearer. And that should be noted to just be just hit rolls, so it will work on melee or shooty shoot. The problem, of course, being if you were using the command ability and targeting 1 unit, you're already rerolling hit rolls of 1. So this is somewhat the same, but whatever. I don't mind multiple bites at an apple, I suppose. And like, to me, the obvious synergy here is with the bows, right? Because you can bunker your bows around the hero who's walking around with this magic stick and this magic horn, I guess, as it were, and then boom, your bow shooter Kurnoth become like way more reliable.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean it's duplicative with the Lord, right?
Archrevenant, yeah.
Yeah, the Archrev, and it's also duplicative with the new command abilities that we're getting.
It's not duplicative with the Lord for shooters. The Archrev only works in melee.
I think you guys might be over.
The ability only works in melee.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Yeah.
The Archrev command ability only works in melee. Yeah, the +1s. Yeah. +1 attack. Yeah, absolutely. Right.
And that aura works in shooting and melee.
But I think you might be overstating the case of duplicative because we're talking about Kurnoth bows that are hitting on 4s with a lot of -1 in the game. And we don't have the modifier reroll failed hits. We just got reroll hits. This is huge for bows.
Yeah,
that's true. Yeah.
So what are you guys' thoughts on Heartwood? I mean, I could talk for an hour about Heartwood, and I'll try to summarize, but you go first. What are your thoughts?
I'll let Tom go ahead. I will say I won't. I'm gonna stomp all over top of Tom. I take it back. Here we go. I love it. I like Heartwood a lot. I like it in a bow Kurnoth build. I like very much. I dig what's going on. I actually like the 2 abilities being separate. One being a sort of PB AoE aura buff. One being a pick a unit and kill them buff. So you can basically be on reroll hits, and against the unit you really need to kill, you can be on reroll 1s to wound. I think that actually turns the shooters into like a unbelievably like laser accurate force.
Well, the reroll ones to hit and wound are only in melee.
What,
Yeah,
for
right. You can use the command ability at the start of the combat phase, right? Yeah. Only
So, yeah, the
oh,
reroll.
you're right. Sorry, I thought it was
melee. The reroll hits can be either.
There you go.
Reroll hits is going to be better probably on the shooters anyways because of the neg ones a hit, as Tyler said. That
Right.
what this gives you is the ability to reroll those 4s that would have missed but don't normally get rerolls on reroll failed hits.
Right.
Right.
But yes, I like this I like this a lot in a Kurnoth heavy build. I think it's solid. I think it's a shame that the command trait is so unbelievably stupid.
Yeah.
Because if the general dies outside of melee, oh wait, no, sorry. Yeah, that's right.
Yep.
Yeah, if the general dies outside of melee, you're just like, okay,
Sure.
cool. Nothing happens. But yeah, like all in all, I dig this one.
Okay, Tom, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, yes, what I just said. I think that I think it'll be fun for Kurnoth builds. I think that it gives the flexibility for the melee and the melee builds and the combat builds, or the melee and shooting to have both. And it has support you can split for each. The bravery, I guess, is helpful on the Kurnoth builds. I mean, it's at least synergistic because you're going to be running lower model count, so you don't want things running away. But I don't think it's over the top. And I do agree that I think it is duplicative with the Arch Rev, because he's going to be passing out a native +1 or reroll 1s on passive melee. When you get into combat, you're going to end up being split between wanting to give the melee guys more attacks and wanting to give them reroll hits and wounds. And so it feels like you would be command point dumping a lot. Like when the melee guys get into combat, which I could see there being like starving for command points.
Yeah, we don't have ways to generate CP in this book,
right,
other than the brooch. If you take that as an artifact, which you're probably not going to be able to because you need to take other artifacts.
Right.
So yeah, you're really starved. Tom, one last question on this. What do you think about this from tier 1 hat, top table hat?
I think it's in the fat middle.
Okay.
And the reason, like, rerolls is not going to get you into top tables, right? Like, rerolls hit and wound just aren't going to be the gas that pushes you into that top tier.
Also, it should be stated that all of its good abilities affect very elite units, which are traditionally, not your primary way. Like elite units, and also a lot of elite units don't want to move. Not that that's going to be your only thing that's in the list. By far, you're going to have plenty of other stuff in there. My point is that, like, I'm always highly suspect of the viability of super elite armies where you're going like, 15 Kurnoth or something like that, right? Or whatever the nonsense would be.
To be clear, when I talk about this, I want to be very, very crystal clear on this. They are not going to get, like, there's very little that it will be death by 1,000 paper cuts or buff, or ascending to tier 1 by 1,000 buffs. So they're gonna, the movement for this book is going to be very subtle, right? Because there are no really kind of like blockbuster outstanding abilities. I agree.
Hallelujah.
Yeah, agreed. Top tier lists will have rerolls often, right? But just rerolls aren't what put you there. It's mobility and bodies and durability and like all those other things. And I'm not like, oftentimes a lot of those tools will sit in these abilities, and those things aren't sitting in these abilities. Does that make sense? And I would argue that a lot of that other stuff, that other kind of ephemera that pushes stuff into the top tier, aren't in the rest of the book in the types of ways that you would want to see it in there. Not to say that there aren't top lists in this book. It's just that you're not going to find it in this wardrobe. Maybe I should say it that way.
Okay. All right.
So I'll try to summarize this quickly. When I was talking about the spectrum earlier of thinking about, if putting the top table, trying to optimize build to compete in the highest echelon, Heartwood was the one when I first looked at the book that stood out. And that's because I think there's another one that's incredibly intriguing, and that's Dreadwood, which we'll get into. I mean, there are a number that are intriguing, but Dreadwood's commandability is easily in the top three, in my opinion, with this book. It's amazing. All right, so Heartwood, with that spectrum, we've got, with a 2K list, you can get, let's say, 12 bows, 12
Sure.
Kurnoth bows.
Sure.
And 12 Kurnoth bows at 24 shots, 800 points, re-rolling hits. I've got the notes here. Against a 4-up save, you're averaging 17 damage, or 15.5 with if they've got Mystic Shield on them. So rolling average with 24 shots, you're taking out a keeper. And the numbers obviously are going to get even better. You know, the numbers are pretty damn good against hordes as well. So like Plague Monks with a 6-up save, I think I was looking at 25, 27 damage against 6-up save. So you have some challenges with that kind of gun line. You've got 800 points. That's not going to be that mobile because you're limited to 1 teleport with a new Navigate Realm Route.
Right.
You need to be in range of the artifact. You do have some redundancy in, for example, taking an Arch Revenant that you could still keep. If, let's say, the hero with that artifact gets killed, you know, the Comet gets plopped on its head, and the Celestin Prime plops another Comet on its head, and bye-bye 5-wound Branch Wraith with my horn. You need an Arch Revenant in there for the real ones to keep them turned on a little bit, or maybe an Azeros who could also turn on your other units in your army.
Sure.
So there's definitely some limitations, but what I think is really intriguing is that you can combine, so that's 800 points. You still got 200 points to play with. And
Right.
we've got these amazing cheap bodies called Spite Revenants that also happen to punch pretty hard in combat. They do have some of their limitations, so you can get 20 Spite Revenants for 200 points right now.
Yep.
Right.
They do have limitations. They're 1-inch reach, and they're 32 millimeter bases, so that's a problem. But
Yep.
they're really damn good. You've got ways to buff them. They love the commandability in Heartwood. They love the Arch
Yep.
Revenant, +1 attack. You can get a bunch of Spite Revenants in a list with 12 Kurnoth Hunters. You can
Yeah,
also
what's
get,
fascinating about Spite Revs in general
Yeah.
in this is that we're going to return to this multiple times where you look at it and go, Spite Revs will work well in this. Right?
Yeah.
I think there are no less than 3 of these Glades where I look at and go, Spite Revs are my go-to. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, I mean, Dryads could work. I don't think Dryads are too, but that's a big difference in point. It seems like a big difference in points. 100 versus 60 in a Heartwood Kurnoth bow heavy list. You don't want a lot of woods on the table. With a new Dryads Warscroll, you need to keep them wholly within 6 inches of the woods to maintain the -1 to hit. They're not terrible at just 10 bodies. Outside of that, a base 4-up save. So if you've got 30 of them, they're still going to have that 4-up save for a long time. Even though they're not -1 to hit, they still pump out 2 attacks. They could pump out 3 attacks with the Arch Revenant command ability. They're still decent. So I think, you know, you could try out, go Dryad heavy with 12 Kurnoth bows or 15 Kurnoth bows. I like 12. To me, that's a nice sweet spot. But yeah, the point being, when I look at this, the Heartwood, I see the ability to get, you know, one of my favorite go-tos, which INET players have been doing, are the Eternal Guard. We can ally with Wonders. Eternal Guard, you know, at least for a little while, we will see what happens with Cities of Sigmar. They're still really cheap bodies that are 6-inch move, fairly durable, 10 bodies for 70 points. 140 points, you've got 2x10 or one big line of 20. So that can help you with additional, that's one of your additional layers of screens. You could take some small units of Spite Revs that is an additional layer of screens. So I don't know, I look at this, I can see the easy ability to get a couple layers of cheap body screens, multiple units that can hang out on objectives, all the 12 Kurnoth bows, and then a couple, 2 or 3 big damage dealers
Right.
in big blocks of Spite Revenants that are synergizing with your support heroes. That seems like a pretty good army.
No, I agree. Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, my pushback
Mhm.
is that's 800 points of shooting, which that's its own problem. But like compare that to like four Celestar Ballistas in a Lord Ordinator
Mhm.
and a Zeros, which is less points, and it's going to arguably put out quite a bit more damage.
I'd have to look at it.
I like on
Pretty sure it
average, those 4 are going to put out like 20 it's gonna put out like I believe it's on the upper end of your damage, so like a 16 to 18 wounds on a 4+ save because of the -2 rend.
Okay.
And so like I'd have to rerun the math again, but I'm pretty sure it's out damaging you. And those builds traditionally have not done well. Now you have the ability to pick up and drop your Kurnoth, right? Because of woods being able to step around the board.
But again, you can only do one.
Right.
In
Right.
Heartwood.
You can only do one. Where arguably, like they could, they like Stormcast also have ability to do similar things, with certain buffs and with relictors and stuff like that. So I haven't seen this stuff succeed in other lists when you have these like ultra blocks of like 800-point blocks of shooting. And so like I would be hesitant is what I would say. And the footprint on 1240 mil bases is not insignificant.
12,
no, it's big, but it's going to fit. I mean, like, there's no question does it fit wholly within the buff range. I mean, sure.
No, I'm just saying, like, but when you're setting that around the battlefield, like, if you want to teleport that footprint of those 12 models around, it's going to be an issue.
Yeah. And yeah, I found that, I mean, it gets into the debate of should I be sacrificing the champion extra +1 to hit in order to just take a big unit. I'm actually not even sure what the max size of Kurnoth you could take, but so that you can teleport more of them around the board when needed.
Yeah.
Just take one big unit.
All right. Let's keep moving.
Let's
keep moving through the glades.
Yep.
Let's talk about another just, I think clearly strong contention here. Big winner.
Yep.
In Ironbark. Now we've got some gas. All right. So abilities, you can reroll battle shock tests for when they're wholly within 12 of a hero. Great. The command ability is activated in the combat phase before you pick anybody to fight. If you do so, this is the most ridiculous command ability. If you do so, pick one enemy unit that made a charge move this turn and is within 1 inch of a friendly Ironbark unit and roll a die. On a 2+, they take D3 mortal wounds. Okay.
Horrifying.
Cool. All right. The command trait is you can reroll save rolls for attacks made with missile weapons against the general. Okay. Cool. And the artifact of power gives you +1 to wound rolls for melee weapons. So
you're excited, man.
Just a real winner. And of course, the unwritten benefit of Ironbark is that, yes, they get to ally with Dispossessed and with Fire Slayers. I mean, is there anything good in this entire Glade? I submit to you there is not.
I mean, that would be fantastic if it were just army-wide, like Anvils of the Heldenhammer, reroll battle shock test, period. No holy within silliness.
It would be awesome if they had some kind of ridiculous command point generation engine where, like, when somebody charged you, you could just, like, down the line go, like, pop, 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 and have every unit trigger D3s in responses. But, like, with as starved for CPs as this army is, and just, like, it's just not good.
Yeah. Yep. I don't know. I haven't thought about any Fire Slayers. Can we do KO? No?
No, it's just Dispossessed and Fire
Slayers. Okay. Yeah, I haven't thought about those builds at all yet. So maybe there's something interesting in there with the new Fire Slayers in particular. But yeah, this one seems pretty lame.
Agreed. Hot Chinatown garbage is the rating. Moving on. All right, Winterleaf. I actually like Winterleaf. I think it's fun. I know why I like Winterleaf. I like Winterleaf because its main ability reminds me of Slaanesh. So let's talk Winterleaf. First of all, you have Winter's Bite. So if the unmodified hit roll for an attack with a melee weapon is 6, it's 2 hits instead of 1. So the standard sort of Slaanesh ability. And then their command ability is use it in your shooting phase. If you do so, you pick one enemy unit wholly within 12 of a friendly Winterleaf hero. Invisible to them, you roll a number of dice equal to the number of models in that unit. For each 6+, they suffer a mortal wound. So again, the idea of like taking a horde thinner. I'm not going to call that a horde killer. But a horde thinner spell and putting it on a on a command ability, which is cool. It's again within, not wholly within. So you just got to touch the edge of that unit and bing bang, you're there.
Yeah, you could double tap that with Dwellers Below, one of the spells that does basically the exact same thing.
Yeah, there's a couple different instances of this sort of of this sort of thing in the book. So
Yeah.
enough horde thinning, and of course you could walk through a wood and then use this, because you could easily walk through a wood and be 9 inches away from the enemy and still within 12 of some unit you wanted to ding with it. So there you go.
Mm-hmm.
The command trait is roll a die each time a wound inflicted by a melee weapon is allocated to the general and not negated. On a 5+, they suffer 1 mortal wound. Okay, so I hate universally all things like this, where like, why is this rule not just if you roll a 6 to save, you deal a mortal wound back? Why do we need to
standardize it?
Yeah,
Just standardize it. Yeah.
didn't we already learn this lesson with Blood Warriors? Like,
Mm.
why are we now getting into additional rolling happening after the save? We already had the roll.
Right.
We don't need more rolls. Okay?
Yeah.
Stop it. Stop it.
This is the sort of thing I always forget. I've tested Win or Leave 3 times and have forgotten this every single turn.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then, of course, there are Artifact of Power. Once per battle at the start of the combat phase, you can pick one friendly Win or Leaf unit wholly within 18 inches of the bearer. After that unit has fought in that phase, you can make them do so again. So, cool artifact, but it's obviously only a once per battle thing. I rate Winterleaf in the, like, good area of this. That is to say, like, I don't think it's great. It's definitely not the top picks, but I think it's good. It has some interesting stuff. I like very much, we mentioned Spite Revs. I very much like the Winter's Bite ability on Spite Revs, where you already are making a ton of attacks and you're fishing for a lot more attacks. I like seeing a trigger on things like swords. I think it's really nice, because obviously they get a high number of attacks. I like it with Arch Revs and buffing the number of attacks. I think you see where I'm going with this.
Yeah.
There's a fair amount of ability to play with stuff like that. And so, you can get this up to where, like, it's making a difference. Whether you're at the low end with little weedy Spite Rev attacks that just are starting to explode into tons of hits, or at the high end with things like swords or whatever, where it's, it's popping off into more high quality hits, right? So,
Right.
and,
this
the artifact could be like, here's what I'll say about the artifact. Once a battle seems like pretty awful limited at first, but like so Varengard have this ability, right? This is like the Varengard have this exact ability where, like, once a game you decide to pile in and fight twice, right? And I will say that, like, it is the shockingly good thing that they have. I mean, Varengard are hot garbage, but that ability you'd be amazed, because there's often one combat a game that you just came up short in, and this can, like, turn the tide. And yes, LLV, we're live. What are you talking about, buddy? How could we be live and you're leaving comments? What do you think is going on here? Sorry, I just haven't been there. Yeah, everybody's been chatting happily. I haven't felt the need to go over too often recently. But anyways, go ahead.
Yeah, no, that's huge. And it absolutely should be limited once per game. Put this on 6 Kurnoth sides, 9 Kurnoth sides.
Yeah.
Pretty disgusting. I've been testing this out in a big brick of sides, and it's helped against Lanesh, chewing through chariots and demonettes, and, a whole bunch of crap where you really need to chew through the summoning that they've brought on the board to have more models on objective. And just with all of the, as Mephisto said on Twitter today, your Kurnoth on top of your Kurnoth and coming out of your Kurnoth, and it's all Kurnoth all the way down with Sylvaneth in this new book. There's so many ways of buffing Kurnoth hunters. It's pretty incredible. This is sort of the Gristlegore in my mind, or Tyrants of Blood equivalent in this book. It's the one that it obviously stands out as being, strong and solid, and kind of the easy go-to, the easy button.
Yeah. Which I like. I'm a fan of easy buttons.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, this kind of ability will just, it will win if used correctly. That's what it comes down to. So.
Yeah. Well, it's awesome. I mean, given the fact that it's army-wide, it can really buff up some of these Warscrolls. So Laro's Beetle, 5 attacks, pop a 6. Hey, an extra attack or an extra wound roll, another potential for 5 damage. Durthu, this is Durthu and Winterleaf with the ways that you can get Durthu bonuses to his attacks. Grimwood Gladius +2 attacks, and potentially other shenanigans. I guess that would be about it. Get him up to 7 attacks with that. Looking for 6s. yeah. Anyway, yeah, pretty solid.
No, I like. I mean, Winterleaf has a dumb command trait, which is a sort of repeated theme.
Yeah.
But beyond that, I actually like most everything in here. I think horde thinning on a command ability is actually really interesting in the ways you mentioned, where you can also then combine
Right.
it with a spell and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah, Winterleaf is sort of at the heart of one of the open questions in my mind with this army overall, which is, can you run sort of how competitive can be melee, combat focused Sylvaneth builds be? How competitive can those be? This book is really sending you the signal that they wanted to make Sylvaneth more combat focused,
Right.
sort of a little simpler to play, not
Yep.
as much movement, mentally intensive shenanigans going on, faster to play, and yeah, this is at the heart of it. So I don't know the answer to that question, but if you want to try that out, Winterleaf is the way to go. One of the good ways to go.
Yeah. I would like to make an official. I agree with Mr. Mephisto, who's in the comments, by the way. A 6+ every model in the unit, horde thinning. 5+ horde breaking. 4+ horde killer. There we go. That's the new verbiage. So
Yeah.
Yes, that's good.
that's our official that's our official rating system going forward. Tom, any final thoughts on Winterleaf?
No, I like Winterleaf. I think it's fun. It's something that I would play. I think that Winter's Bite, having that army wide, you can never go wrong. I think that the command ability is useful. I think the trait's worthless.
Right. It's God in heaven. Just literally scratch that out. Redact that section. Your game will be happier.
Right. Yeah, and I mean the artifact is nice. I agree that that can be really useful. And what I love about it is it's not that hero.
Right.
Yeah.
Like it's a hero within range. So that's
Yeah.
100 bajillion times better.
Well, you can also think about that. Again, another open question: how competitive can you make stomp meta, ground shaking stomp meta with the Tree Lords, Ancients, Durthus, where the new ground shaking stomp previously on a 4-up at the start of the combat phase was -1 to hit. Now on a 4-up start of the combat phase, you pick a unit within 3 inches and they will be attacking last. So sorry, Gristlegore, Terrorgeist, or whatever. Well, I guess now it won't matter because it's only on the charge. It's only going to be in their turn for the most part. I guess that could matter.
Well, it still
it could still certainly matter in your own turn.
Right.
Because
right.
you do want that, like if you've got 2
Yeah,
units into
absolutely.
him, you would much rather him go last and you get to
Absolutely.
attack with
Yeah,
both
yeah.
of those, then you get one of them and then he eats your face. But
Right.
sure.
My once per Warhammer Weekly brain fart, at least once. Anyway, so yeah, it's amazing with that. Yeah, if you can combo with those stomps and give you more opportunity to really take advantage of that artifact. Yeah.
No, I agree. The stomps are incredibly there. It's good. We'll talk a little about it because we'll talk a little on Warscrolls, and I'm sure it's at least as good as Slanesh. So you're bent and broken now. So there you go. That's very good.
Of course.
All right. Okay. So let's talk about Dreadwood. All right. All right. Dreadwood.
Mhm.
Go on. Go on.
Abilities. You can reroll hit rolls of 1 for spite revs. Okay, cool. Good stuff. Command ability. You can use this command ability once during each of your turns at the end of your movement phase. If you do so, pick one friendly Dreadwood unit wholly within 18 of a friendly Dreadwood hero. Remove that unit from the battlefield and set it up again anywhere more than 9 from the enemy. So you get a command ability teleport. Which I know Tom loves. Their command trait, reroll successful battleshock tests for enemy units while they are within 6 of this general. Continuing along the line of command traits I do not give a crap about. Awesome. Okay. And finally, your artifact of power, which I actually don't think is terrible. Subtract 1 from wound rolls for attacks made with melee weapons that target the bearer. I don't call that good, but I think -1 to wound against people is often underrated. There are way better artifacts in the world, but it's not the worst.
Yeah, this is the most complete. This is my favorite command trait so far, in part because reroll successful battleshock tests for enemy units means that if they have a rule to re-roll their battle shock test, sorry, you can't re-roll a re-roll.
Right.
So it's pretty cool in that regard. Yeah. So Dreadwood, pretty. When I was first looking at this book, didn't fully appreciate this command ability, and a couple of days later, it quickly shot near the top. I don't know what the player base is thinking right now in Dreadwood, but to me, I could see this one being a little undervalued early on. But I think this might be, it's certainly in my top 2 of what will be the most competitive Glades, I think, for the new Sylvaneth book here. I don't know. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I mean, it brings us back into the spite revs, obviously. I mean, this one just says, duh, you're supposed to use spite revs. It's literally written in the Glade, right? And we've talked about how good spite revs are now at the numbers that they're at. I think the command ability is bonkers good because pickup and move teleports are always useful. Non-dispellable, automatically happening pickup and drop teleports are better than casting or prayers that can fail.
Yeah. Like, and oh my gosh, like, just the presence of this command ability changes the game.
Yeah.
You can never spend a point on Sinister Ambush. Okay? And it will shift the flow and the deployment of the game.
Yeah, sure, because it's sort of this looming threat that's always there, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You can make the enemy play conservative withhold troops, all that stuff, just by its mere position in the game, just by its presence. And so, like, I love this word growth.
Yeah.
I mean, this combined with a spite rev, just the wonderful cost for spite revs right now.
Would you take Drycha in your build for this energy?
Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yep. So Drycha, so you're rerolling hit rolls of 1 for your spite revs. Drycha with the Warscroll allows you to reroll wound rolls of 1 on those spite revs. I think it's a wholly within from her, but it's pretty good range.
Yep.
So yeah.
You can now put her where she needs to be, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because you just teleport her over and charge everybody in.
Yeah, and there are multiple ways in this army to get bonuses to charge. So Spite Swarm Hive is one of the new spells we'll talk about. Cast of 7 gives a +3 to move and charge. And then you can still take cogs if you want to. It's a little expensive, but it might not be a bad idea, particularly in Dreadwood. Turn that 6 into 4 with Spite Swarm Hive. You have to get a 2-up roll, and there's a wholly within 8 limitation on Spite Swarm Hive. So you're going to have to sort of castle up a little bit and plan it out. But still, that's quite amazing.
Hey, Sean, I want to jump in and comment on Sean Clark's. He just said he doesn't like banking on 9-inch charges, but it's great for board manipulation and control. Sean, my only comment to you is just roll 9.
Just roll 9, Sean. You know what happens when you trust in just rolling 9s.
Yeah.
Everything works out always. That's what I'll say.
This also does get into one of the issues with spellcasting outside of Null Root. We don't have a lot of ways to get bonuses to our spellcasting. So, for example, our endless spells, like take Spite Swarm Hive, it's incredible. +3 to movement charge, great, sounds good, let's do it. Oh, it's cast on a 7, that's not very reliable. How am I going to improve that cast? I've only got 1 cast Wizards because for some reason the True Lord Ancient is not a 2-cast 2-Unbinder at 300 points, which might be the biggest crime of the book. Okay, so I'm going to. Sure.
You are insane at 300+ points single caster. Get that out of here.
Seems fair. Seems perfectly fair.
So I'm going to take Spirit Song Stave so that I can cast another spell. Cool. I'm going to take Throne of Vines, cast that on a 5. Maybe that goes off. Now I've got +2 to cast. Cool. Now I'm going to cast the Spite Swarm Hive, turn that into a 5. But now that means you're casting 2 spells, both on a 5-up. Like that doesn't sound that reliable to me either. And you're spending an artifact and blah, blah, blah. Anyway, yeah, it's not easy to get off 7+ cast spells outside of Null Root.
Right.
All right. So I think the consensus is we like the Dreadwood, and it's got some potential in it. It's funny how much of it's writing on the left side columns, and you can just ignore the right column of this one. But there you go. Okay. So, and finally, our last one, Harvest Boon. We got a boon. All right.
Wait, there's another one?
Yeah, Harvest Boon. Oh, I get your joke now. Okay. You can reroll hit rolls of 1 for attacks made by friendly Harvest Boon units that made a charge move in the same turn. Okay. Their command ability, Fertile Ground. You can use this command ability at the start of the combat phase. If you do so, pick one friendly Harvest Boon unit wholly within 12 of a friendly Harvest Boon hero. Until the end of that phase, add 1 to the attacks characteristic of that unit's melee weapons. You cannot pick the same unit to benefit from this twice. So, +1 attack command ability. Cool. Good stuff. And by the way, you're making that joke, but I actually super love Harvest Boon, so that's okay.
I know.
Because I actually think this is my favorite combat one, probably. We'll talk about it in a second.
Sure.
At any rate, command trait. Is this the only good command trait in the lot? No, there's got to be at least one other good one. I'll have to go back and think about it. But I love this one. I mean, I really love this one. Each time the general attacks with its melee weapons, it can make a 6-inch move after all of its attacks have been resolved. If it does so, it must finish the move more than 3 inches from enemy units.
Yeah.
So, what's your general?
I mean, something that's gonna go hit people and then walk away. Again, I like commandy.
What size base?
Oh, I don't know. Let's
Yeah.
Durthu's base. It's not that big.
Durthu, what is it? A 120 oval, 100 oval?
I thought I don't have him in front of me. He's back there. Is he a 105 or a 120? I don't know.
He is not. Yeah.
Doesn't matter. It's super easy to get away. Whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
If
thank
you
you. 120 oval.
Direction back, yes. If you have to move crosswise to get out of combat, out of range of folks, it becomes a real issue. If you can move back, yes.
So what you're saying is that often I will be able to walk out of combat. Seems pretty amazing. It's after I attack, I get to walk away. So I could go walk away and stand on an objective that I had killed people away from, or that it was free and open. I can avoid counterattacks because I charge in, select Durthu first, whack the crap out of somebody, and then leave.
Try to get behind the screen. Yeah.
Yeah,
Or something.
it's so good. I love this, and I love this a lot. As a matter of fact, yeah, I super duper rate this ability. Yeah, this is
It's
a
not bad.
stupid good ability.
Don't misunderstand me. My issue is this on what model?
On Durthu, the spirit of Durthu.
Maybe. Yeah, I don't know.
He's my hot pick because I'm also because then you also have an artifact of power. Let's pick one of the bearer's melee weapons, add 1 to the attacks characteristic of that weapon. I'm gonna just give that to a Durthu anyway, so his sword has more attacks, right? And the command ability makes more attacks. So look, I want to swing with Durthu's big dumb sword as many times as I can, and this list makes me want to have many Durthus. So it's a Durthon. It's a Durthon in the Durthu land where I'm just rocking and rolling into combat and out. That's all I'm saying. So yeah, I like Harvest Moon a lot. The fact that Durthu would also get to reroll hit rolls of 1 when he charged, right?
Yeah, that's big.
Helping to make that sword it's not great, but it's better. Anybody who's ever charged with Durthu knows that he will often show up and just be like, no, I missed. Next.
Yep. Yeah, I think it's pretty good. This one, to me, I haven't tried it out. It's going to need to be actually experienced. You need to see it on the table in quite a few games to get a sense of the 6-inch trick and what you can really do with it in different situations, and how likely is it, and how often is Durthu just going to die anyway? Am I going to be running double Durthu and they're both going to die?
Let me answer your
they're going to
questions
flop
in
the
order.
wound.
Yeah, let me answer your questions in order. Yes, no, often, and sure. Don't get me wrong. This one appeals to me. I do rate its command trait super high. I think it's amazing. But in all honesty, despite the fact that this has a command ability that buffs attacks, it's just not building. It's great. This is a beautiful roof on a house that is frankly needs some repairs. It's it's a weak foundation.
Yeah,
right?
this is Winterleaf light to me. I'm not rating this as highly as the obviousness of Winterleaf.
Right. Yeah, it's just you're running in with giant tree lords with swords has never been the actual strength of this army, but it's the way I want to play this army. So this one I'm all about bringing in big dum with +2 attacks or more, and he's coming in swinging hot and then just leaving I can just see him running in, hitting, and then just being bye. He just runs away. I picture him doing a sweep, just an arc through the enemy where he's just pow, and I'm out.
Yeah.
That is the way this army should have been designed to work.
Yep.
Anybody, this is the, Tyler, because you and I have talked, and I've told
Yeah.
you many times before that my Sylvaneth are like YOLO trees, right?
Oh
I've
yeah.
always loved YOLO trees, just like
Yeah.
woo, swing. And so this is a Glade that speaks to my heart with YOLO trees. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, but I'll let more reasonable people also evaluate, which would be the two of you.
It's fine. It's fine.
Yeah. It's yeah.
Exactly. It does suit my. I mean, I do have multiple spirits of deer through Maid, so maybe I'll have to get them out for this sometime. Although I will just put my one woods down and then never make any more woods. So there you go.
All right. That's all the Glades.
That's all the Glades. Cool. So next up, we're gonna spend the next hour and a half talking about Path to Glory. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Stupid Path to Glory being in the middle of the book. All right. I want to talk about battalions, obviously, because these are the two lenses through which, let's be honest, you're going to think about your army, right?
Yep.
Have a good night, Sean. Thinking about your Glade and your battalions really shape a lot of what your army is about. So, basically 5 battalions, right? We're going to go ahead and ignore the giant thing. That's okay. We're going to pretend like that doesn't exist. The mega super crazy battalion that's not for match play. Fine. Next.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Free spirits. Here's how we're going to do this. Free spirits. Lords of the free spirits is 1 spirit of Durathu and 3 units of Kurnoth Hunters. Lords of the clan, 2 to 4 Tree Lord Ancients, 1 to 3 Tree Lords. Household, 1 Tree Lord, 1 Branch Witch, 1 unit of Tree Revs. Forest Folk, 1 Branch Wraith, 3 units of Dryads, and Outcasts, 3 units of Spite Revenants. So I read through those like that so we can get an idea of how and what in the army is actually being covered in the battalions. Obviously, notably, what you are missing are things like the Archrev, right? Like if you have him, he's always a separate drop. Like that's the kind of thing I wanted to make mention of here, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that some of these are very much on extremely tight rails, right? Like your household is 1, 1, 1. It is very, very locked, right? And you have in 2 different battalions what we will affectionately now call the Tree Lord tax. All right?
Yeah.
All right. So, given those, now we can get in and actually talk about some of the abilities more. And I want to do that like this. Tyler, where do you rate of these battalions? Do you like them all? Do you not like any of them? What do you like?
Yeah, I mean, overall, I was a little disappointed with battalions, but that's been a running theme with these books of late. And
Sure,
the
I
point
mean, on the low
pricing-
end, you have like Stormcast, and on the high end, you have like Slanesh. So go ahead.
Yeah. Just the vast majority of battalions are overpriced. We have all of these battalions were the first generation Sylvaneth battalions. We didn't get any new battalions. They kind of got toned down and simplified, which is fine. There were some missed opportunities. We did not get an Arch Revenant incorporated, as you mentioned. Like Free Spirits would have loved to have seen an Arch Revenant incorporated in that. That seems pretty natural with the lore of Arch Revenant. But in terms of what I like, what I don't, Outcast is the immediate standout. Everybody's talking about 100 points just for the battalion, 3 units of Spite Revs, 60 points pop. So 280 points. You've got your battle line covered. You've got an artifact, command point, fantastic. I could easily see like double Outcast being a thing, 2 artifacts, 2 command points, covering a bunch of Spite Revenants. Cool, sounds good. Forest Folk, they changed the ability. Units from this battalion can retreat and still charge later in the same turn. But again, it's getting that issue of Forest Folk in some ways to me seems like classic Sylvaneth because of the -1 to hit is now only wholly within 6 inches of Wildwoods. You're going to need to be able to get Wildwoods on the table, which means if you've got shooting, your line of sight might be blocked by shooting. Sort of really orient you in a particular build. I don't know about Forest Folk. Lords of the Clan is the one that I rate the lowest because it's 2 Tree Lord Ancients.
Let me jump in here real quick. I triggered Mr. Mephisto in the comments.
Okay.
I was saying a scale of 1 to 10, where 1 is Stormcast battalions and 10 is Slanesh battalions. Like that, Slanesh only has 3 battalions, but all 3 are good. It's my argument. Like they have uses. So, anyways, please continue.
And Stormcast have 80 battalions and good.
Pretty
like,
much.
Yeah, one is like
one of them was good.
Is like
kind of
good.
Quincy Phalanx was. Yeah.
It was good.
Soulstrike Brotherhoods. Oh man, put a candle up for that.
So,
It could be good.
Look,
Right.
we all know
Lords of
that
the
with the
Clan.
Stormcast battalion we want to see saved is the one with 3 of the big lords on on
Uh-huh.
Star Drake, the 3 Tempest dudes on Star Drake or whatever.
Yeah.
That's the battalion that needs to be awesome. Anyway,
Yeah,
continue.
absolutely. Yeah, the Lords of the Clan. I mean, it's not amazing. The immediate problem with that is the 2 Tree Lord attack, Tree Lord Ancient attacks. I'd be maybe interested in considering it if it were just 1 Tree Lord Ancient, but given that you cannot use 2 Silent Communions in a game, if you got 2 Tree Lord Ancients, they both got Silent Communion. It's once per game. You're only going to be able to use 1 of those Silent Communions to get 1 Wildwood out. You can't get 2 Wildwoods out through that. So that immediately kind of kills at the knees one of the key reasons that you're taking a True Lord Ancient in the first place, given that it's not 2 spell cast or unbind. Yeah, I don't know. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I agree with that summation of all of it. The Lords of the Clan is very disappointing because of not only the 2 Tree Lord Ancients, but the 1 Tree Lord I've got to take in there too, right? Like,
Yeah.
and look, we can talk like Tree Lords as a behemoth and monsters in general. Like at 200 points, is he slightly more interesting now because the nature of the stomp or whatever? I don't know, but I still don't think he's worth that. He's a big dumb monster. He's fine.
Here's the question:
Still attacks.
Is 1 Tree Lord worth 20 Spite Revs?
Oh, probably not.
No.
Yeah.
In no world is he worth 20 Spite Revs. Not in damage output, not in survivability, arguably, just because of a body, just raw bodies.
Yeah.
It's like perspective holding and body blocking and zoning and like.
Yeah, the only question for why you would consider Tree Lords, if you're trying to play the Stomp game and you're orienting your build around thinking that you can reliably get 2 Stomps where you need them to be to turn your chance into 75% of making something critical attack last.
Sure.
Other than that, I don't know why you're going to be taking Tree Lords for the most part. I know there are other people who are competitive who are higher on them, but to me, that would be the main reason for considering the value of Tree Lords. And yeah, even Kurnoth Swords versus 1 Tree Lord. I'm more interested in 3 Kurnoth Swords than that Tree Lord at the same point value. So yeah.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, there's like, it's a great comparison. When you look at that 200 point level right now in this army, right?
Yeah.
There's so much going on, and there's no way. Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, when you take that Tree Lord in the Void, the Stomp is cool. You know, making people fight last is cool, right? And, like, it's fine. He's on a 3-up save. He's a decent number of wounds. He's got okay attacks. But exactly, you put him up against, like, 20 bodies or 3 Kurnoth, and you're like,
yeah.
What is happening here? What in what universe is this a comparison I'm willing to make? But again, this goes to something where like non-hero monsters need to in general be cheaper, and I would argue like big horde groups need to all universally go up. But that's a different show.
Yeah. I mean, what are your guys' quick thoughts on are you up or down on this idea of trying to play the Stomp game in your list building with Sylvaneth New Book?
I think it's a trick you have that is there and useful occasionally, but it's not something you build around. It's way too... I just don't think it's going to work in your favor most time. But I'd love to be wrong.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. I would love to see... I would love to see them kind of... that being a sort of presence, because it leads into the sort of monster mashy type thing that I enjoy. Right. I
think in terms of actual in-game positioning... footprint of, just positioning of trying to be able to get, not relying on a 50-50, which I mean, I guess you could, as you said, you could play True Lords and just hope that the dice are in your favor for that game. And it's just like a nice bonus when it happens, but you're not orienting your game plan, your build, etc. around it.
Right. Yeah, I think it's a cool ability and a good bonus. Right. But like it's the Slanesh ability. Like, it's Slanesh without the Keeper of Secrets, right? It's all non-Keeper of Secrets Slanesh go last thing. Now, I mean, shorter range, obviously, but other than that, it's a similar sort of trigger. And like the number of times I've had every hero fail that 4-up in a round, right? That I've rolled down the line, rolling 4 heroes, and went nope. Okay, cool, next.
Yeah,
and that's do anything this round.
And that's the main reason you're taking him in a game that has no scenarios where you're scoring, even based on wounds remaining. He's 1 model. Yeah. Again, anybody, any other thoughts? Let us know. Add a comment. I'd love to be proven wrong as well, because I want the Stomp game to work with this as a viable build, but I'm not really seeing it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, to me, it's like it's outcasts probably showing up a lot because
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Spideys are hot. They fit into a lot of different glades synergistically well, and there's no tax, and their ability is like, but it's a battalion, right? And
Yeah.
it's like cost wise, Outcasts isn't insane. You know,
Mm.
it's 100 points. Okay.
That's
Yeah. To me, yeah.
like I think Force Folk as well. I think you're going to see them show up quite a bit.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, certain builds. I wish Force Folk were at least 20 points lower. It's 140 right now, which feels at
Right.
least 20 points too high.
Agreed.
Household, yeah. Household would be nice if they had, if you are Null Root Glades and you play the Household Battalion, we're going to do a tip of the hat to the old book and allow you to take a True Lord Ancient in your household. That would have been cool.
Yeah.
Right now, you're only allowed to take a True Lord no matter what you are, Blade wise.
If that was just keyworded, right?
Yeah.
Like if that were just the like the bold or something like that. Like I don't know if Tree Lord. I guess Tree Lord
It's
Ancient is what it is.
exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
if it were keyworded to something where I could switch in different heroes, right? So
Yeah.
let me just be very clear about what I mean. Uh, if you could take a Spirit of Durthu or an Ancient or a regular Tree Lord, I would say sweet. I'm in for
Yeah.
this. I think it's now pointed appropriately, and I like what's going on in there. Because don't get me
Yeah.
wrong, a witch and a unit of tree revenants. Like I think most lists probably want to include a unit of tree revs in general.
Mhm.
As always, I have and and I have always. You remember you and I talked about this. Like
Mhm.
Sylvaneth book the first. I cracked the book and I was like read the whole thing and I was like tree revs. I rate
Yep.
them. They're the best utility unit in
Yeah.
the book. And
Yeah.
I
Totally.
consistently stand behind that to this day.
Yeah, you've been proven right, Tom. He was proven right.
I don't disagree.
Yeah, and I mean like that's not an audacious call. Like a lot of people recognize the value of these things. So like
Yeah, absolutely.
the problem with household is the tree lord
I,
tax, right?
I lost the game to him.
Yeah, yeah,
Like Tyler. I lost.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Okay, so real quickly, a point. So one thing that, what do you guys think? I think this is reasonably clear because of the existence of the Fire Slayers Battle Tome and my understanding of how that's being interpreted, and also the way that the core rules are written. All right, Free Spirits. In your the ability for the Free Spirits Battalion, in your movement phase, if you declare a unit from this battalion will run, do not make a run roll. Instead, add 6 to the move characteristic of that unit for that phase. Does that count as a run?
Yes.
Vince?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right. Well, apparently this has been controversial. And yeah, I went and looked at the core rules, and it's written in the exact same language
Mm-hmm.
in the section with runs. So I don't, and I was also told that a lot of cheating Fire Slayer players have been playing it differently. I'm joking, Fire Slayer players, but let me know otherwise. But they have a battalion with the same ability, and a number of them have been playing it to where it's not treated as a run roll. And I thought that was strange.
Simply wrong. And it's not just Italian. It's Vostark.
That's what it was. Both Stark. Yeah.
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 Okay. All right.
It's dumb. That's just people cheating.
Okay.
And
Yeah,
you,
I mean, you literally the first sentence is if you declare a unit
Yeah.
from this from this battalion will run.
Right. Right.
yes. So it's been declared. So like it counts as a run because it's
Yeah.
been declared as a run.
You
They
have
are.
said these guys are running, and now
Right.
in lieu of the taking step, like this would be very easy. Step it out, right? Step A, declare a unit is going to run as that's its move type, right? Step
Yeah.
B, roll a die and add that value to their move characteristic, right? Well, you're replacing step B. Like it's the simplest. It's the simplest
Yeah.
thing. Now that being said, it is worded like a bit wonkily.
Yeah.
Like there's a
awkward
better
there.
way to word this, but like you're you're trying to split weird English hairs there if you're misreading that intentionally, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, the battalions, they're not bad, except for Lords of the Clan. Not a big fan of that. Free Spirits might see some play if you want to play heavy Kurnoth builds with the Durthu, get your drops down. That ability is fine. Kurnoth are slow, they're 5-inch move. You're not going to be teleporting them around the board as much because you're going to be limited to the one Navigate Realm teleport. So cool. Yeah, extra, some moving 11 inches in that first round. Sounds good. You know, a little bit of benefit. Again, I think it's a little too overpriced. 140 should be at least 120, if not 100. But yeah, they're fine. Just definitely a lot of missed opportunities, I think, with battalions, including no new ones.
Yeah. Yeah, the Free Spirits one is the one that kind of makes me the most sad because of its point cost. Like, I like its ability. I like everything
Yeah.
that's in it. Obviously, I've given my tastes where this army goes. Like, I love me some 3 units of Kurnoth, and I love a Spirited Durthu, so I'm all on board there, and I love them all running super fast. Good.
Yeah.
Aces all around. My problem with it is like, it feels like it isn't 140 points worth of value I'm
Right.
rocking out of this battalion.
Like that battalion just changes overnight. Overnight.
Yeah.
If that becomes a keyword.
Yeah.
Oh, or if it's just 100 points.
Just 100 points.
Right? Like at that stage, I'm like, yeah, okay, cool, I'm
Yeah.
in. So, you know, we'll see. We got a chance. Hey, you know what? 6 months. There you go.
or FAQ changes that they say, oh, by the way, it was a mistake. That tree lord should be a
Well,
keyword.
it's not. The problem is the other ones don't actually have the tree lord keyword. Shockingly.
Yeah, they're all it's Spirit of Durthu, Tree Lord Ancient keywords. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You would think they would all have like the tree lord keyword because they're all tree lords.
Right.
They are not. That would be.
Yeah.
You would think that. You would be wrong. Okay.
Or that you would just simply anyway, we can move on from this, but I think it's technically the term is free spirits. That is the nomenclature for those. Anyway, never mind. I could be wrong. Moving on.
Let's obviously now. I think if people are familiar with most of the Sylvaneth Warscrolls, they're familiar with this army because there wasn't a huge amount of like actual changes here throughout the Warscrolls, but there were some. Okay.
Yeah.
And I think we want to touch on those. So the first one you already mentioned, which is your Durthu, your Ancient, and your regular Tree Lord. The stomp all changed to be basically a 4+. You make a unit ASL.
Right.
Great. Cool.
The Impel also changed. So previously, the Impel. Well, I won't even get into that. The new version of Impel. If you roll a 6, so the Impel on all 3 of those, it's only 1 attack. At least base 1 attack. Unmodified hit roll for an attack made with Impel. If on a 6, that attack inflicts d6 mortal wounds on the target, and the attack sequence ends. I'm not as big of a fan of that as what it was previously, because previously you had an opportunity, for example, do 1 wound to a 5-wound hero, and then take that down. Let's at full health. Now it's at 4 wounds remaining. Roll a 5 up. That hero is slain outright. No ward, nothing. That was much better, cooler. So yeah, that was kind of unfortunate. You still can the big guys, Durthu, Ancient, Tree Lord. They can also teleport without having to worry about the limitation of Nav Realm Root. They're the only ones that don't have to worry about the limitation, along with the Tree Revenants. Everybody else does.
Yep. Yeah, good stuff. So there's minor changes there. Do we want to talk about the minor change on the Queen, on Miss Everqueen?
Sure.
Yeah, because I mean, we should talk about the Everqueen, right? We should at least mention this.
Yeah.
This fake god and what changed with her.
Oh man.
This pretender.
Don't rub it in right now. I'm not feeling good about the Queen.
All right, so take us through Alorio the Everqueen.
Okay, so
from a change perspective, obviously.
Change perspective. So she was 600 points, which more or less meant that she was 400 points, summoning approximately 200 points every game. Pretty solid, but in a meta where you can be double turned and you can be shut off the board, she was relatively easy to kill, particularly on top tables, tough to use, the way that you would often have to play her conservatively. So you've got at least 400 points equivalent that you're playing conservatively early game.
You can't hide her in woods.
Can't hide her in woods. She had a lot of limitations that sort of had her on the edge of being what I would consider playable in a competitive context, in a more of a top table competitive context, not fat metal. All right, a lot has changed in that regard that I think is probably going to make her less playable, which is very unfortunate because she's the only multi-spellcaster in the army now. Yeah, unless you're taking Spirit Song Stave or something like that, or a command trait and not going on Glade. She's 16 wounds. She still has no ward protection. She's the goddess of life, Vince.
I'm glad about
goddess
that.
of life has no ward save.
She should not have a ward save. She should
Ben
have
Johnson,
healing.
what are you doing to us, Ben Johnson?
All of this is the correct design.
Do you
I want to
hate
see
Valerial?
much less ward saves in the game. Boo,
I know you like
ward
Stormcast, man.
saves. Boo.
I know you like him, but Alariel needs some love here, man.
She does
I'm gonna
not.
I'm
She's
gonna stay
fine.
quiet.
Get rid of the feel no pains. All right, go ahead.
Oh my god. I would have been happy with this. Just give us a 6 feel no pain across the entire army. Life force. Good.
No, no.
Love it.
Stop
Thank
it.
you.
Stop it. Stop it.
Yeah, all right. So Spear's the same. Talon dwindling chain.
Eternal is the name of the ability that you're looking for.
What is it called?
Life Springs Eternal.
Oh yeah, love it. Let's write it in. Next book. Here we go. 2022. Looking forward to it. Talon dwindling. If an unmodified hit roll, if the unmodified hit roll for an attack made by the Talon dwindling is 6, that attack inflicts D3 mortals on the target in addition to any normal damage.
Mm-hmm.
What do you guys think?
I mean, better than what it was. I'm sure.
Better than what it was.
Because
Yes.
it was just dumb before. Like it was one of those weird dumb triggers that you just like always forgot about and was hard to make happen. Like this is the right way to do it. Yes, simple, good, great.
Yeah, I mean, I could see some argumenting on that, but I'm fine with it. Pretty nice. Life Bloom. So now Alariel is not going to be tapping herself for 2d3 heal. She's only be getting the 1d3 with the way that they have changed her War Scroll.
Mm-hmm.
And the Soul and Foray. What's critical about Soul and Foray is her once per game summon. Previously, you had to do that in the hero phase. I can't remember if it starts sometime in the hero phase. And now, once for battle, you can do it at it triggers at the end of the move phase. So move her, plop out 20 dryads, 3 swords, whatever. That's pretty cool. I like that change.
Yeah, no, that's good.
A little more mobility, positioning.
And then the other change is her command ability, right?
Yeah, arguably got toned down. So previously, Gaiman's Wrath was once per game.
Yep.
Your entire army gets to reroll wounds until your next hero phase. So you could be doing that for 3 phases until you go again. In yours, in your opponent, and then your opponent's double turn, or your double turn is because
Sure.
Oh yeah, in your opponent's double turn. So now you can use the command ability at the start of the combat phase. If you do so in that phase, you can reroll wound rolls of 1 for attacks made by friendly Sylvaneth while they're wholly within 14 of a friendly model with this command ability. If you got Kurnoth went back to how they were previously with their new War Scroll, where they used to beacon in the original book. Beacon Out now is back, and it's wholly within 12, so they always essentially have command abilities that they'll be able to get wherever they are, and the Beacon Out wholly within 12. It's not bad, but I definitely prefer the reroll all wound rolls for the entire army once per game.
Yeah, let me tell you why I'm excited about this command ability change.
Mm-hmm.
You ready?
Mm-hmm.
Because it tells me that when I get that Auric War Clans book in a couple months, that Gordrak's that his command ability is gonna be like a bonus to attacks and an aura around him, instead of that crappy once per game thing he has now, since he's the other fake god, just like Ariel. Like he's the other one like that had that old school, right? Like once per game, I'm a fake god and I do this thing.
We don't need that modifier. We don't need that additional element there. Yeah, go ahead.
Right. So so I'm happy to see that now he'll get a new one. I don't think this command ability is very good, but I'm excited about what Gordrak's gonna have.
Right. Good to know. So yeah, Metamorphosis is still great. It still does what it used to do. Mortal wound damage, 16 inches. You can obliterate something and plop a wood down and turn something into a wood. Cool. She's interesting. Winterleaf, great. Roll 6s, sounds good. She's cool in Null Root, reroll 1s. There's a lot of uses for her, but the problem is she's going to be even more dead in this heavier shooting meta. She's more expensive. And yeah, I just don't think she's going to see a lot of competitive play right now at her point value.
Tend to agree. We'll see how it shakes out, but I tend to agree.
I don't want that to be true.
Right.
But it's going to be true.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep. We should talk about Drycha, because I freaking love how Drycha works now. I really, really do. All right. So so let me just quick thing about Drycha, whatever we want to call her, right? I don't know how it's actually pronounced. So obviously she's 320 points, and I hate her existing model, like her base model. I can't use it. I can't play it. It bothers the living bejesus out of me, but I have a fun Drycha conversion that I really like, and I've always liked her rules. I like her rules way better now, because she's bringing all the bugs now. Right, she doesn't have to choose which bugs she loads up with anymore. She's pre-game loading missile tubes like a mad cat. She's got to decide as an Omni-Mech whether she's loading up the MRMs and the LRMs.
Right.
No, she gets all her bugs now, which is great.
Yeah.
And so the key is the colony of flutterflies is her ranged one, and her swarm of squirmlings, that's a hard thing to say, is like just another melee attack. Both
Right.
make 10 attacks base, and now you just get to, at the start of the battle round, notably, battle round, not your turn, the battle round, you're making a decision which one of those you want to buff, right?
Yep.
And then it stays there until the end of the battle round. So through your turn and your opponent's turn, in the next battle round, you would choose a different one if you want. And, one of them turns your ranged attack into 20 attacks.
Yep.
which is a funny thing to say. And one of them turns your melee attack into 20 attacks.
Yep.
So, kudos. I do agree with somebody had said already in the comments, like, it is a crying shame that you can't give her the Sword of Justice, and, or the Sword of Vengeance, or the Sword of Japan.
Sword of Japan, Sword of Judgment.
Yeah, the Sword of Judgment. There you go. Sorry, I was getting around to the right name.
Oh,
Yes,
yeah.
she would be the most amazing Sword of Japan wielder in history, but sadly, no,
Absolutely.
she is unique.
Yeah.
And so all of her, in any event, all of her little flutterflies and squirmlings now just do a mortal wound on a 6.
Yeah.
Great. No more weird, complicated measuring and all this nonsense. It is point, click, roll die, do mortal wounds. Good stuff. Okay, great.
And at all times, rerolling ones and all routes.
Yes.
Rerolling ones to hit. Looking for those unmodified 6s. Yeah.
And
pretty
she
nice hero
gives,
sniper.
she gives spite revs within 16 inches, reroll 1 to wound, which I really like a lot. Yeah, I mean, she's good. I like her. She's a little low on wounds.
Yeah, she's 320.
Yeah, she's 320. Like, I would like her a lot better if she was 12 wounds at this price.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
But she is also relatively fleet of foot for this, which is always why I've liked her. That is to say, like, at a 9-inch move, that's a decent move in this army. She's not flying or anything, but that's still not terrible. And, like, her spell is, but that's fine.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, her spell is always.
Yeah, pretty much the same. What do you think, Tom, about Dresha? Oh, you're muted. There you go.
No, I'm good. I love her. She's my new winner. Obviously, I'm really hot on the spite revs now. And so like that synergy, like she became better in herself, and she synergizes with the thing that I like most in the new world.
Why did she become better in herself? I mean, if you look at how she was previously, so you would have to specify in your army list, I'm going to take the horde killing swarm of squirmlings, or I'm going to take the AoE MSU damaging colony of Flitter Furies. And a lot of people would go with the horde killing one because of the meta. And it was a very clear tool, very clear what you had in her list, what her job was, how you would play her, how you position her, yada, yada, yada. Why is she better? Like she was a very clear tool.
Because she's flexible. Okay. She that's my read on her, at least. Like anytime that you have flexibility on a tool, that makes that tool better, right? And because you can now pick her up and put her down anywhere you want in Dreadwood, because that's what Dreadwood does. Like she's a flexible tool that can do the range, that can do the melee, that can do all of the things that you want her to do, and she can be wherever you need her to be on the battlefield. And again, with her, I'm thinking particularly in Dreadwood.
Right, and with the spite evidence.
I want her, and oh, by the way, she's now doing this other thing that she wasn't doing before better.
Yeah. I do love the potential hero sniping with the 20 dice rerolling. Well, in Dreadwood, you're not going to be. Well, yeah, you can pop a command point potentially for the real ones, so shooting attack. Yeah, that's quite nice. Yeah, good range on it. Yeah. 27-inch threat range with her movement without teleporting. So yeah, pretty good.
Yeah, I'm a fan of her. Like, and for her points, I think she's one of the best hero grabs in the army.
Think we might see her as an ally in other builds outside of Stormcat or Sylvaneth?
That's a good question. I doubt it, but that's an interesting question.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I need to play her more. I've only tried her once and rolled wasn't didn't want my dice didn't want to roll sixes that game. So and she died quickly. I think some shooting got her. Yeah. Oh yeah, Seraphon with her nonsense. Two Basiladons popped her. Fun and yep. I hate that army. The reroll army. We're just rerolling everything in this army, and we're teleporting everywhere. And yep. 3-up reroll, ignore Rin. Good times.
Yeah, I mean, if we're going to talk hero, we can talk allies later. But I actually think there's a different combo that if we have allies show up, there's a different combo that I think allies will show up in.
Okay, cool. All right, but yeah, I definitely see why there's a lot of people that are high on her. I see why folks are high on her.
Yeah, sure. All right, so next up, I want to kind of just talk about the Archrev real quick, since he's a kind of new addition. Like, obviously, he's been around for a little while, but this is the first time he's shown up in the book, obviously, right?
Yep.
Okay. So the Archrev, obviously, he's what the first and most standout thing of him is that he flies. Just a very useful ability in general in this army that doesn't have a lot of that option. 5-wound hero with a 4-up save. Cool. Great. He has his little duder that's on his back, his little bug, right? And that's what lets him fly, and so on and so forth. He's a great example of like an ability that doesn't need to exist in his Crescent Shield ability, right? Where it's like at the start of the combat phase, you can say whether he's using his shield for protection or to steady his weapon. If you do one, something incrementally okay happens. If you do the other thing, something incrementally okay happens. Cool. I've got an idea. Stop writing abilities like that on a single hero that I didn't need to be thinking about making that choice at the start of my phase. It just doesn't need it. Write an ability that's impactful, or don't write an ability at all. Thank you, please. I hate things like that because they're memory traps.
Yeah.
Right. Like you're gonna forget. You'll play your Archrev. You'll forget. It'll go by.
Right.
It'll happen. And then like you'll get into making your saves or whatever, and you'll be like, oh wait, hold on, I got to do this thing that I forgot about.
Yeah.
Okay, fine, do it. It's great.
Yeah.
And then let's talk about the abilities he has that actually matters, which is Champion of Kurnoth, where you can reroll hit rolls of 1 for attacks made by friendly Kurnoth hunters while they are wholly within 12 of him, and his command ability, which you use at the start of the combat phase, and he basically can give, +1 melee attack. So good stuff there. He has a little ultimate sacrifice thing where you can kill his bug, and then he loses the ability to fly and use his pincer attack. Okay, great.
That can be good if you want to hide him in a.
That's like my favorite ability.
Yeah,
no, it's fine. It's just the problem is it's like, okay, it stops 1 wound, which is cool.
Yeah,
and you can turn off the flying so you can go hide in the woods.
and that's what I was gonna say. Is like that's what I like the most. Is that like if he's on a woods and somebody like arcane bolts him, he can be like, nah, like he already
Sure.
take the hit and then drop into the wood.
Right.
So like you don't have to worry about that spell sniping anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sure.
Oh, that's another thing we didn't talk about. So previously, all of the Sylvaneth spells, the Deepwood spell lore, you did not need line of sight. Now for 2 critical ones, Regrowth and Virtus Harmony. Regrowth for the D6 heal wounds on 1 model, and Virtus Harmony to bring back mainly 1 Kurnoth Hunter is what you're always going to be using it on. Both require line of sight. So if you've got your branch witch trying to hide out in the woods, sorry, you can't see probably to what you want to heal up or what you want, the Kurnoth unit you want to put 1 model back.
Right.
That's another little limitation.
But this guy's 100 points. I mean, I don't know. I rate this dude at 100 points.
Yeah, initially I was really big on him. I think he's still interesting depending on the build. There certainly are some limitations. You mentioned the drop issue. He is a drop because he's not in the battalion. There are other ways that you can do what he does, both with the +1 attack and the reroll ones to hit. Sure. Multiple ways to do what he does. So there's some potential redundancy.
I'm not sure that that's necessarily a bad thing though when it comes to adding attacks. But sure, again, understand that I'm looking at it all through the melee tree's perspective, which is not potentially or even close to being the optimal build, but sure.
Right. Yeah, so we're definitely going to see him. I think it's just going to be build dependent. I mean, like most things usually are. I do love his. I mean, he is. You guys know I was huge on the Azeroth for Sylvaneth as an ally, for the real ones to hit, the flying, etc., and the fact that he's basically an Azeroth for Sylvaneth. I love that. It's nice to have a hero 12-inch move with an artifact move around the board, put buffs up where you need to, not have to rely on woods for teleporting, and so on. So yeah, I think it's really interesting.
Yep. Yeah. All right. Just let's hit some quick other notes. That is to say, our notably the spell, our old spell that summons dryads on our branch Wraith is no longer 2d6 dryads. It's now 10. Good. Okay. Great. Cool.
It was
stuff.
always 10 dryads with the General's Handbook.
Yeah.
For match play.
Did they? Okay, they said it's 10.
Yeah. Yeah. Right 18. On. Yeah.
We talked about tree revs and spite revs, and they're basically how we think they work. We know we split up the hunters, but I want to take a moment here. I want to take a moment to dive into hunters.
On that summon, how that spell changed, though?
Sure.
Yeah. You know, yeah.
So, like a really big deal.
So go ahead, Tom.
Yeah, so the big deal now with the branch wraith is that like when you summon those 10 dryads, they have to be wholly within 1 inch of an awakened wildwood.
That's a good point. I blew by it, but you're right. That shouldn't be skipped. Sorry.
Like it's such a big deal because on one hand, you're potentially giving summoning to every army that allies us in.
Oh, I can say,
Talk about this. Yeah, like I said, like we'll talk allies here in a minute. Like so, because this is giving summoning away.
Yeah.
But it has to be near awakened wildwood. So that's
previously it had to be on it.
Oh, did it?
Essentially,
okay.
Yeah. Now you're actually wholly within 1, so you've got a little. You don't have to technically be on it; just wholly within 1. So
but
it's a little bit
down in order to do summoning. That's the.
Well, and again, that's always been the case, except for Alariel. But yeah, that's always been the case. Yeah. But I never thought about that. That's intriguing. Okay, cool.
We'll talk about it.
Yeah. Branch Witch, another missed opportunity for poor Branch Witch that nobody played except in Household, particularly with Null Root for GH for the old book. Branch Witch didn't get any love whatsoever. Missed opportunity. Nobody's going to play her again unless you're running Household. And the warbands, kind of the same pattern. You're not going to see the warbands played. They just always seem to be overcosted. Same applies here with Ilthari's Guardians. Tree Revs, you can now teleport anywhere on the board.
Yeah.
You don't have to do Holy Within. That's incredible. Do you guys think that there might be any mileage out of a lot of Tree Revs? Or would you still stick with like 1x5 or 2x5?
I think they're still too fragile. I think what they're there to do is be emergency chaff. They're there to be emergency objective grabbers. They're there to pressure like solo weak heroes who like to hide in the back because they can get in there, land that 9-inch charge pretty easy with the reroll. They can actually do enough work in melee since they all have some kind of rend. So if you've got a little 5-up, little wonker hero trying to hide back their cast spells, they'll get in there and do the work, right?
Yeah.
That's what they're there for. They're not there to be a like super mobile combat block that shoots around the table and actually like gets choppy because they're just a bunch of dum-dums on a 5-up save that die way too easy. Like they just don't have the wound per point ratio to survive that.
Yeah, it's 160 for 10. I tried it out the other night against Lanesh in Winterleaf. I was just trying out the block of 10, and they did their job in stealing one of the 3-point objectives in total commitment, and then they got a little too full of themselves and went after the other objective with only 10 demon heads on it. Failed the first charge, got the double turn, got the charge off, finally came in, 16 attacks, popping 6s on. 3 demon heads died, and I missed 14 of 16 attacks.
I mean, like anything should kill 10 demonettes. So if that's happening, you had a bad night. Let me just say that 10 demonettes are the equivalent of like 10 Ungor. I mean, there's no difference there. They're terrible. But okay.
I think I killed 2 of them. Yeah, it was 14 of the 16 dice. Couldn't roll a 4-up. Anyway.
Well done, buddy. All right, I want to dive in on Kurnoths here real quick.
Yeah.
Because they were split apart, and so because they were split apart, interesting things now happened. Right. So, most notably, I want to talk about Kurnoth Hunters with greatswords.
Yep.
So, because you and I think, have always had a love for the sword sculpt.
Yeah.
But it was always like the least. Again, it's little Durthus running around. They're adorable. I love them with their swords.
Well, in the last season, they really came back because arguably 17 and 18, they were pretty solid to play with Horde meta.
I think if we looked at the numbers of occurrences on table, like shots on goal type of thing,
Yeah.
I'm not sure we would say that's the case versus like Scythe or whatever, you know?
Well, yeah, I just always thought they were anyway. Relative to running three of them, or even six, relative to the damage output. The point being, I always thought that they personally, I always thought that they were undervalued in a horde meta,
Sure.
and that everyone was fixated on for good reason. The size with the unit of six, because you can plop them in a wood, and they can still do the damage with a 2-inch reach, and they're getting the cover save, so 3-up re-rolling. I mean, yeah, and there's a lot of reasons to stick with that big unit of 6 size with the 2-inch reach, other than like 2x3 swords. But yeah,
Right.
I thought they were a little undervalued.
But now your greatsword dudes notably are, so they still have the same hit and wound profile, so 3s and 3s as the sides.
Yep.
They are neg 1 rend instead of neg 2 rend, just like before, and 2 damage as opposed to D3 damage. The difference being they have 4 attacks now compared to our scythe attackers' 3 attacks, and most importantly, if the unmodified wound roll for an attack made with a Kurnoth greatsword is 6, that attack inflicts 1 mortal wound on a target in addition to any normal damage, which I like quite a bit, and I really like its combination with our aforementioned 6Es trigger additional hits, because then that's additional, that's more shots on goal for the wound rolls, which I like, you know. So the great swords really did jump up to be like the higher rated one in my mind.
Yeah.
Also,
they
just
were always 4 attacks. I don't know the way you said that.
Yeah, they're 4 attacks compared to 3. Yes.
Yep. Yeah, they were always 4, but yeah, compared to 3 with a size. Yeah, absolutely.
I was only making the point of the comparatively.
Right.
Sorry, I didn't mean to imply that had changed. You know, I like these guys a lot. That Sundering Strikes, I think, is a big deal.
Yeah.
The ability to trigger mortal wounds, that kind of thing, is always valuable.
Yeah.
And yeah, I dig these guys now.
The trample works like the Celestial Lightning Arc with evocators. Now you just need one model within, well, it's 1 inch for them, one model within 1 inch in combat of an enemy unit, only one, as opposed to having to have each model within 1 inch of an enemy model to be able to roll. Now you just need one, and you can roll a dice per Kurnoth in your units, and on a 4-up a mortal wound. So that's improved a little bit.
Yep. Yeah, and you still have your, you know, envoy of the Everqueen and your Tanglethorn Thicket, you know, your reroll saves thing, your broadcast command abilities and your reroll save things. I mean, these guys are just, I think, a great unit.
Yeah, they took away the Feld modifier that they've been doing with a number of the newer Warscrolls, so now you're rerolling everything. That was one of the problems that they had with Kurnoth. You know, you couldn't reroll those 4s, so that's big. Yeah, just tons of love.
No, I agree. I actually, and I hey, whoa, I can tell you're in the comments you're going to disagree with this. I rate these guys higher than Scythes right now. Okay? That is my bold claim. And I will say that because there is, let's say 2 armies out right now that put really impressive armor saves on the table. Okay.
Stormcast, Seraphon are definitely, if they're, what else? Seraphon, Stormcast.
I don't count. I'm not.
You don't count Seraphon?
Not really. I mean, Seraphon have some units that have really good saves. What they really have is just a lot of, like, ignoring neg 1. They don't have a lot of, like, 3-up re-rolling completely saves or stuff like that, right?
There's nothing in there that,
Yeah,
they
I guess
tend to be on a lot of, like, 4-up and ignore neg 1 rends.
Apparently I'm playing, I'm playing too many Bastillodons and Saurus Guard, apparently.
Well, if you're playing Saurus Guard, you should have already won. I don't know what you're doing there. But the other one being Fire Slayers, right? Who can arguably get to, like, just redonkulous save numbers that are those are.
Oh, what you're talking about?
Yeah.
Just nuts that will not crack. Yeah.
Right. The uncompetitive tier 2 Fire Slayers. Right.
Sure. So, you know, like, don't get me wrong, in those kind of situations, yeah, that's great. You know, like, the Scythes are good because they can actually get in the rend. But I think even in those kinds of cases, I'm not sure I wouldn't have more attacks and the ability to trigger more attacks and get more shots at mortal wounds, which are definitely punching through in these cases that we've just talked about. And against a vast majority of other things, I would much rather have, like, neg 1 rend is still good, and I'd rather have more attacks.
Yeah, in GH18, like I said, I was messing around with a unit of 6, kind of my year of just doing silly list and not being too competitive. I've never been that competitive, but really toning it down to just doing whatever. And yeah, it was crazy playing 6 against hordes, because I would always be able to get all 6 of them in. and they would just tear through crap. Yeah, pretty amazing. What do you guys think about the bows? So this is, the controversial one, obviously. I think a lot of folks expected the bows to have some change, either take the 2 attacks to 3 attacks, or take the 4 to hit to a 3 to hit, or take the points from 200 to 180. What do you guys think about bows?
I think they're I think they're orthogonal to the other two we just discussed.
Yeah.
Right. Like, that is to say, I don't think there's actually much of it. It's comparing apples and oranges. I think that they are better by virtue of the other things we've already talked about tonight. So the things that made them better happened off scroll. Now, should they still be 180? Maybe is my answer. And I wouldn't hate that. Yeah, I would say I'd say give it time will tell on that.
There's still the Order Grand Alliance, with a potential Order Grand Alliance issue.
Sure.
That we have cheaper Hurricanums out there, for example. And we can have Rob Symes' list come back with 180 point turn-off bows spammed with, but that might have been part of the calculus.
Yeah, I mean, there's just a lot of other stuff that can affect them now. Like, there are other things that can buff them. I mean, you're right that, as usual, your own woods can get in the way. If you're not smart, you probably won't be dropping a lot of woods, which is what makes the bows more appealing to me if you're running a bow-heavy list. But there's, I think there is a lot of potential there, is my answer, with the bow, with the bow hunters. I mean, you went through the numbers earlier. It's not that it's not impossible to get them all on re-rolling all their hits, and or re-rolling hits of 1, and or re-rolling wounds of 1, or something, right? Or whatever, right? We can pick these different buffs that are going to align well with what they want to do. And it's always been their hit that's been the real Achilles heel, right? Because that's when only the champ is on 3s and then everybody else is on 4s, you can just easy to flip a bad. It's super easy to flip a bad roll with them on their low number of attacks.
Right, and so much of what you want to be shooting, you're getting a lookout star on top of that, so you're on 5s. Yeah. I think probably would have liked to have seen them at 180, although would have to think more about the Order Grand Alliance issue and if that would be a real problem with them at 180. But as you said, the other stuff helps. Cool.
Yep. All right, real quick, let's finish this out. Let's talk about the endless spells, because that's obviously a new thing we have got. We've got our Glade Worm, our Spite Swarm Hive, and our Vengeful Skull Root. So here is my, and just for our own references here, the Hive is 50 points, the Vengeful Skull Root is 40 points, and the Glade Worm is 30 points. So there you go. Okay, so do you like any of these, Tyler? What are your thoughts on the spells?
Yeah, I think as far as endless spell boxes go, this is one of the better ones with these 3 spells. I can definitely see uses for all 3 of these. The Skull Root, of course, in a wood-heavy build where you're trying to do very low drop, 4/3 drop, getting a lot of woods out, and the potential of doing D6 mortals with this thing rotating around some wildwoods. Sounds good. The Glade Worm, I think, is very solid, cheap, 30 points, nice filler. Spite Swarm Hive. So the Glade Worm, what it does when this model is set up, player who set up can immediately make a move with it. It moves up to 8 inches. You can set up wholly within 6 of the caster, so 14-inch initial footprint. After this model is moved, roll a dice, each unit within 1 inch of it. On a 3+, unit suffers D3 mortals, and it does not affect Sylvaneth, so that's cool. And I think, do you have to pick one of these? No, you can get both of them. After this model is moved, after this model is moved, roll a dice for each Sylvaneth unit wholly within 6 of this model. On a 3-up, heal D3 wounds. Love it. I mean, that's great for 30 points.
I will disagree.
Disagree. Cool.
Finally
some disagreement.
I think that worm needs to burrow back underground and never show his head around here again. He is. I like
That's
that
a great
thing.
Model.
It's a super cool model. I agree. That thing looks awesome. It doesn't.
We're not evaluating models right now.
Right. You have to summon it basically out of your own chest, and that's where it starts its movement. It moves about nowhere, and it doesn't even affect people when it moves. It only affects people when it stops and gets to the end, and even then it's like a real short range around it. And when it gets out there, you're probably not healing anybody you actually care about or damaging anybody you care about. I would pay a hot 0 points for that ability. That's what I would take.
I would pay 10 for it.
maybe 10.
Because I
Maybe.
mean,
I don't know, man. If
But Vince-
I would never intentionally include it at 10. If I got to 1990 and I was like, I literally have nothing else to do. I'm never gonna get a triumph out of it. Sure, it's a cool model to sit on my display board.
it's a base. It's a base taking up space.
Yeah, that's okay. All right. I'm not
Okay.
wearing the competitive hat.
I'm saying as a blocker.
No,
Like,
it's a big base. It is a big base.
yeah, it's a big base.
Yeah.
Okay.
Although
There are
that could be
lots
an
of
issue
ways to
for
get big
you.
bases on things that are actually useful.
Yeah. Yeah, I was not looking at. Yeah, go ahead.
I would say sure, although again, it takes up space. Vince, how do you feel about mall crushers that can't get into combat because of things taking up?
I get it. Great, take a wall or something. Like there's 10 other useful spells you could do that do the same thing that aren't predatory and don't give your opponent the ability to move them out of the way.
It's also cast on a 7, which
Yes,
does
like this thing is just.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, man.
10 points, I would take it.
Oh, okay. At 10 points, sure, fine.
I'd take it at 20 too.
I
30,
would not.
30 is pushing its usability.
yeah. All right. I think you've convinced me. Yeah.
All right, so let's talk about the Hive because I actually think the Hive has a little more to discuss there.
Yeah.
All right, so the Spite Swarm Hive also has a casting value of 7, but you can set it up wholly within 15 inches. At the end of the hero phase, if it's on the battlefield, basically you get to pick one of the 2 effects below to happen. So effect choice number 1, and remember this is you've set this thing up 15 inches out there, right? Okay, you just went
Right.
bloop. And
Yeah,
plop
and this
thing
is
up.
not predatory, so it stays there.
That's right. Yep. So, Vital Venom. Roll a dice for each Sylvaneth unit wholly within 8 inches of this model. On a 2+, add 3 inches to that unit's normal moves and charge moves until the end of the turn.
Yep.
Dig it. And then, again, not automatic, but still pretty good. 2 up, not too bad. 3 to move and charge. 150% cogs for only you. Yeah.
Yep. Dreadwood.
Not bad.
Yeah.
Not bad. And then, of course, Shielding Swarm. You roll a dice for each Sylvaneth unit wholly within 8, and on a 2+, you reroll save rolls of 1. So you get to, like, Mystic Shield everybody. Like, to me, the Vital Venom is the reason you just summoned this thing. You didn't summon this thing to, like, group Mystic Shield. You summoned this thing to suddenly, like, give a bunch of your units, +3 to move and charge. And
But
obviously,
given-
when you set it up, you're going to set it up so that the units you need to affect are wholly within 8, right? Because of the point you're making that choice.
Right. And it's at the end of each hero phase, not just yours.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
That is nice. Yeah, a little potential benefit, giving Mystic Shield for some units there that are potentially bunkered in a Wildwood, like on round 1. The other thing we didn't talk about is because of how the pre-deployment Wildwood now works, you choose sides. So previously you would place the pre-deployment Wildwood before you chose sides. Now you do it after you choose sides, so you could put it in your deployment zone as an early game bunker for your army. And we've seen how big the footprint can be. Now, of course, if you're playing like Scorched Earth or Better Part of Valor with a bunch of objectives on the table, that's going to be a problem because you got to be 6 inches away from all those objectives. But anyway, you can do all else equal. In some scenarios, you can do a lot more bunkering in cover, etc., with your Wildwood.
Yeah. I mean, what I like about this thing is you can put it out there. You can make your units real fast. Now, chances are they probably just ran away from it, right?
Yeah.
But if there's somebody still happens to be near it, or then you move other units up to it that are going to be a bunker in your enemy's turn, right? That you're expecting the counterattack. At the end of their hero phase, you can turn on the Mystic Shield thing. Again, I think the reason you summon it is for the move, and the save kicker is nice if it happens to work out that way. But I do like that it's playing in both terms. You know, this thing's 50 points. It's cool.
Yeah.
I think it's worth it.
Yeah. The challenge is at 7, as we talked about earlier, outside of Null Roots. But
sure.
It's a really good spell, so it kind of makes sense.
Yeah, that 7 is just so painful in this army without bonuses.
Without bonuses, yeah, it's very, very painful. Yeah.
No doubt. And then finally, your Vengeful Skull Root, which is your big angry tree. Okay, it is predatory. It moves 8 inches and can fly. It gets set up wholly within 6 of you, which I love these giant base models that get set up like wholly within a small range to you, because all that means is that you literally put it right out in front of you. Like if this is the model, it just goes right in front of the model because it's so freaking big, and you got to fit it wholly within 6. And it's on a big base too. Not insane, but it's a big base by endless spell standards, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely.
Okay. And then when it's set up, you can immediately move with it. So it goes and flies away 8. Wonderful. And so like, yeah, it's cool. And then Terrors Unearthed. If a unit fails a battle shock test within 3 inches of any model with this ability, add D3 to the number of models that flee. Okay. I generally am not hot on all these things. Outcasts have the same ability, so you could get 2d3 extra failing or running away. The problem is people don't generally fail battle shock tests. They just, like immunity to battle shock is still fairly common. So, but okay, sure. If it happened, great. And then Strangle Roots, after this model is moved, each unit that has any models passed across suffers D3 mortal wounds or D6 mortal wounds if that unit is within 3 inches of any awakened wildwoods. Cool. This one I rate as fine.
Yeah, it's fine. Yeah, it's not bad. Yeah. Yeah. That is that.
There we go. Tom, any final thoughts on endless spells before we call it a day?
They're fine. Like the 7s make them nigh unusable. Like they're just not reliable.
They're rough.
Which makes the costing of them like untenable.
Yeah. So I think we might like one thing I want to see some play, and I haven't heard a whole lot about outside of the Glade, would be taking Warsinger. So the new Warsinger command trait is +2 to charge. I think that's interesting as a potential non-Glade. Folks should try out. I'd love to hear how that goes for people who are trying it.
Yeah, I'm very interested to see when people go to see some non-Glade builds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a couple of other interesting ones, but that one really stands out in the non-Glade department. The Everdew Vial, you can take that. It's one of the artifacts, +2 to run and charge. That's a general artifact that could synergize with Warsinger. So you're now looking at +4 to charge without having to cast any spells on a 7-up, like Bite Swarm or Cogs.
Yep.
That's pretty sweet. And yeah, so what are you guys, some of your overall closing thoughts on, particularly from a competitive standpoint? I think we're all in agreement that this army is really solid from a, fat middle tier 2 space book. It's an amazing book in that regard.
I think it's going to be, I think there are multiple potentially competitive angles people can take. I like that this book is a bit of a puzzle box, and people are going to have to wander through the woods a little bit to figure out the things that are really going to be highly competitive. It's going to suit different player. I like that there are multiple different sort of player, psychographies represented here that have interesting ways they can play this army. I think it will be showing up. I think it will be hard. It's not going to be some consistent top tabler, but I think it will definitely be like if you look at top 10s, on average going forward, I think you'll see it showing up in the top 10s, fairly frequently. There will be those lists that get there.
Yeah.
Especially as people start to really unlock it.
Yeah. Yeah. I can see that. Tom, any thoughts?
I mean, I agree with Vince's summary there. I think that you will see it show up. I think it will. It's going to catch people out. I don't think it's going to be as common as a lot of the other fat middle armies because of the price of entry. And I think that will help it out. Because what's going to happen is it is going to have some surprising punch, some surprising mobility, and people are going to underestimate it because they just don't play it a lot.
Yeah.
Again, it takes a financial investment of trees, and so that will bar entry for a lot of players.
Yeah. So on Twitter, I'd compiled a lot of notes. Didn't get a chance to go through some of these things. I know we need to be wrapping up. I did want to just, if you guys don't care, call out a few things that people commented on Twitter and Facebook.
Sure. We can take 2 minutes.
Okay, cool. So one good one, harkening back to what I was saying earlier about the Spectrum, Relian, thoughts on heavy shooting army in the Sylvaneth book versus Slanesh and Feck. And if going that route, can it still stand up to Doc, IJ, and Skaven if you don't draw the first 2? Any thoughts on that?
Maybe I couldn't tell for sure. It would be tough. Like, I agree with his point. I think it will be very strong
I don't.
against those things and have challenges against a lot of other things, like fire
Yeah,
slayers.
I don't know what happens I don't know what happens when Iron Jaws comes crashing into this book.
Hmm.
Right?
Well. Again, though, I mean, what I was talking about earlier is whether it's Eternal Guard or other cheap chaff, or it's I like Eternal Guard because we can't ally skanks, and I would never ally skanks anyway if we could. But string out 10. That's your first line. Cool. Second line. Let's say they're outdropping you. You're going. Okay. Cool. Go. Get first turn. All right. You're gonna shoot me. You're gonna do some damage. Cool. All right. I'm running at you. I'm doubling you. All right. So I need two. Chaff screens, and then I got my bows back there, and then I make sure that I would think I would be able to do enough bodies with 2 lines of chaff screens for big bricks of spite revenants that then on the bottom of 2 can go into the Iron Jaws.
I mean, maybe, but like the alternative to that is that like Maw Crushers may be able to shout and bounce through your line.
That's true.
You can also fight in the hero phase now, so like
Hero phase.
we'll break 2 chaff lines pretty fast. But
Right, find the hero face. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
They're like Iron Jaws are so punchy now, so
Yeah.
punchy, and they're gonna run the length of the table, in a charge phase, like in a push forward. So I just, I think that Iron Jaws could potentially be a pretty rough matchup for this list.
Yeah.
Especially because I don't see a lot of people talking about running 3-up trees, 3-up rerollable save trees. Like I don't hear them talking about like running Tree Lord Ancient, like running the standard like unkillable Tree Lord Ancient.
Well, because they took that away. They nerfed Null Roots or Null Warrior and Oaken Armor are now reroll saves of 1.
Right.
So 2-up rerolling True Lords, and they're no longer a thing. Yep.
Right. Well, I mean, you could still get the 3-up reroll ones.
Sure.
And you can make them immune to, and you could take Ethereal Amulet and make them
That's true.
red.
Yep. 3-up reroll ones. Yep.
You could do that, but I don't hear people doing that. Like when they're building these lists, talking about this, they don't have any of that. And so I see some of the heavy melee armies literally just rolling through.
Yeah. Spirited Earth is pretty interesting. The ways that you can get additional attacks, so you're not having to necessarily worry about taking Gyre Strike and whatnot to improve the hit and wound roll.
Right.
Taking Ethereal Amulet, get away, maybe an Ancient, which you probably want anyway for giving Auto Wildwood out there, and then reroll saves 1 with the command ability. Yeah, that could be interesting and popping off additional pluses to attack. But again, you're going to be relying on getting those 7s to have bonuses to charge, or just roll 9-ups all day.
That's all you gotta do. Just roll 9s.
All you got to do. Cool.
Right.
And one other comment was, it's a balanced book in a game where balance is not rewarded. I think so this is a competitive Sylvaneth player. I think what they were getting out with this is we see a lot of these armies where there's a lot of skew going on. So Iron Jaws, skew, Doc, skew.
Hey, whoa.
You're
Let's
not.
be
You don't
counting
count.
that.
You're not real Doc.
Oh no, Doc can skew all day. That's fine. I just don't want IJ counting the skew list. Look, we only got 7 units. You can't skew with 7 units, homie. This is just called
Toward combat. You do one thing.
That's fine. I'm just saying. Skew, I think of with like we're leaning into this one particular build. Dude, we've only got enough units for one army.
That's fair. All right, that's fair. Okay, I need to be more tight on my nomenclature.
Yes.
You know what I mean, though. Like,
I know what you mean.
The book drops, so that's probably going to change because they'll be able to dip into. You won't want to build those builds, Vince, but they will be able to dip into Savage Orcs and stuff like that.
Right.
Look, dude, I played the same build before. I'm going to play the same build after. Go.
I think what they were getting at, there's been some, we've had a growing amount. I think we've had a growing amount of conversation around this viewpoint that you look at a lot of the top list, and it's shoot cast, all in on shooting. It's KO, all in on shooting, or it's Slanesh, all in on focused, combat focus, melee focus. It's sort of, you're not seeing that much in way of the combined arms, mixed arms, sort of high Elfian type lists that are doing really well outside of Skaven, because you can still take about anything that you want in your combined arms Skaven list. I think that's what they were getting at with that comment. It's a balanced book in a game where balance is not rewarded. Do you resonate with that at all or disagree with it?
I think that that's just the nature of those armies, right? That they are like, what else is Slanesh gonna do? Like that
Sure.
is what they do. Like
Right.
I don't know that that's true or false. I think it is a balanced book. I
Hmm.
completely agree, and I think there are still problems in the meta that are like outsized in the level of their quality, right? Like they are still
Right.
bent a little too much in the good direction. But that being said, like I would be shocked, honestly, if
Mm.
we got to the Cities of Sigmar book and Combined Arms wasn't a play.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I hope so. Yeah.
I mean, that book seems to be built around combined arms. And
Yeah.
actually, what I'm most excited about is not this book for Sylvaneth. I'm interested in the Living City and what happens there.
Sure.
Because you have all this new tech, and then potentially the Living City may push it into 11 because
Yeah.
it's going to be able to let you combine things in ways that I don't think we've anticipated, especially if you get those Sylvaneth Wildwood on the table.
Well, yeah, and that could be a bad thing for the for the meta. Yeah, I mean, yeah, you're wearing the tier 1 hat there, where I don't know. Yeah.
All right.
Like,
Well, good discussion, gentlemen. I apologize.
yeah,
We need to call this a day. This is
yep.
good. All right. The Sylvaneth, we've covered it. I know, I'm sorry we can't do a traditional Tyler 4.5 hour episode, but I got to get up very early. So, at any rate,
Yeah,
gentlemen, it has been a pleasure. Tyler, it's great to have you back on. Look forward to seeing you real soon, buddy.
yeah,
And
definitely.
as always, for all of you out there watching, we very much appreciate it. And we'll see you next Wednesday.